are in the Center Office Building, 301 Main Street. This is the Conservation Commission. November 19th, we have a quorum. Mr. Barnacle is the only one missing. And with that, we are going to go into executive session. All right?
So we should read the purpose of going into executive session.
Oh, yeah, it's on.
Okay,
We
yeah,
have to do a roll
yeah.
call.
Okay, the reason we're going into executive session is to discuss strategy with respect to litigation. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the government's litigation position and the chair so declares so.
That's
So
sufficient.
we should also reference the property and the lawsuit.
Okay.
Yeah, we have.
It's 27 Ladder Road.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
27
that
Lad
is- yeah.
Road. Town of Sturbridge, by and through its Conservation Commission versus 508 Main Street International, and Salou and Brett Salou, Worcester Superior Court. CA number is not here, but that.
No, it's not on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that sufficient?
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to do a roll call. So it's
All right.
we should also announce that they're going to reconvene in open session.
Yes, we are going to reconvene in open session as soon as possible, within an hour. Roll call?
Do you want us to state our names?
That's what I was-
Aaron Gaspar.
Steve Alderman.
Stephen Chittister.
Ned Goodwin. Yeah. We take a couple times to get things straight.
I haven't gotten through my Robert's Rules of Order yet.
Some dry stuff. So we go into,
Yeah.
Correct. We'll go in the back room, and that's what the Board of Selectmen do. They have their meetings televised as well.
Yeah.
So they'll start out here in open session and go into a private room that isn't being recorded, so.
Side by side, we don't want you walking. We'll get you a barnacle-type vehicle. All right, so we are back from executive session. Just for the record, Steve recused himself and did not deal on the matter that we were involved with for conflict of interest. So we're back to discussing legal remedies in the general sense. I know remedies isn't the word you want to use, but Becky, do you want to start with your question with regard to illegal cutting?
Well, I guess I'd start with the general fine questions. So one, we changed our bylaw regulations. However, town bylaw, not our wetland bylaw, says that conservation has to first issue a written warning, $25 fine, $50 fine, $100 fine. However, our town wetland bylaw says that we can issue a fine up to $300 a day. Are we limited to follow the town structured setup?
So this is one of the questions. A little more research.
Okay, that's fine.
Because,
Okay.
There is, because there's a state statute, General Law, Chapter 40, Section 21B.
Yep.
That sets a maximum for these types of non-criminal disposition fine of $300. But it sounds like your general town bylaw has a lower minimum, and then the commission's wetland bylaw has a different
Okay.
I'll look into that a
Okay.
little deeper, and I'll send you a written.
Okay.
I think our town bylaw is $300.
It is. Well, our wetland bylaw says $300, and I think that,
Well, we
that towns in general, it's
can't-
$300.
we can't, it's our understanding we can't go beyond what the town bylaw is in our finding.
Right. Well, based on what I had seen from Becky, it looks like the general town bylaw was at $100.
Maximum, yep. If you look at,
So,
And
this
check
is-
that out.
This is the language that's in the
Yeah.
town general bylaw,
Okay.
so.
the
All right,
state
well,
statute has a $300 maximum. But usually it's the town bylaw that sets the actual amount, so there may need to be an amendment to that bylaw. That's something I'm putting into a little deeper.
Okay.
I can send you guys a written
Okay.
response on that.
Thank you. We have, if we had a project site, this comes up often where we have enforcements that are issued, property owner and say the contractor. The contractor say does the violation, admits they knew there was a process and a permit was required. Would that be a situation where we could immediately fine? And that might go back to the first question, unfortunately, where the fine's set up with a written warning first.
Yes, you can fine based on whatever the appropriate procedure is, so if we're following what the general bylaw says, then yes, you would first issue the written.
Oh, yeah, Max, we need you to grab the mic.
So for the fines, whatever the applicable procedure is, you would follow based on, assuming what the general bylaw says is what we'll be following, but again, I want to confirm that and do a little research, but whatever the process is, you send your initial fine, then usually there's an escalating amount that is capped at 300, or here potentially 100 based on the general bylaw. And there's a procedure that you need to follow to collect on the fines based on the statute. So for Sturbridge, would it be Gardner District Court, I think that,
Dudley?
Dudley, sorry,
Dudley,
Dudley
yeah.
District Court. They likely have forms that you can use for that. That, you write out the property owner's name, you write out the fine amount, and there's 3 copies. So one copy goes registered mail to the owner or the contractor, then you keep a copy and you file a copy with the court, and the court keeps a record of the fines piling up, and eventually the court will schedule a hearing where the owner or the contractor has to come and either pay or dispute the basis for the fines.
Okay. If we have outstanding fines that were issued a few years ago, doesn't appear they've been paid, how would we handle, who would be responsible for collecting those? That might be a question for the district court.
Yeah, I'm not sure they even would be collectible at this point,
Okay,
to be honest. The procedures are very specific under the statute, and there's certain timelines that need to be followed.
within 21 days.
Right, yeah. So, to the extent there still are ongoing violations, you can, start issuing new fines, and those
Okay.
those would be collectible if you follow the appropriate statutory procedure. But going back and trying to collect on historical fines that may not have followed the appropriate procedure, I would probably advise against that.
Okay.
Do you have any specific questions?
Let me give you a scenario. A lakeside home, they're all cottages at this point in time, and they decide that they want to, build a mansion. You see that all over the state, and I'm sure you've seen it. The question is this: if the landowner goes in and clears the trees it's beautiful, they're all very heavily treed. It's a violation of the Wetland Protection Act and of the Sturbridge Protection Act. How can we, we'll arrive on the site and they'll say, well, we got the crane in here to go over the house and pull the trees out, so we did them all. And we knew we were in violation, but it was economically the best thing for us to do. How can we handle that fine-wise?
I suppose it would depend on the language of the bylaw and whether the bylaw prohibits removal of specific trees, or, is it more general?
Right, work occurred prior to getting a permit.
Right.
Yeah.
If it was by specific tree, then, you could. So another option with the fines is, rather than going through non-criminal disposition, you can, through an enforcement action, well, an enforcement order can't actually assess the fines. But if your goal is to get them to restore or say replant trees, right, you would do that through an enforcement order. So if the ultimate goal, and again, fines, I think, need to be viewed as a means to an end, right? The end being to either restore the property or get the property owner to do the appropriate filings so that you all can review whatever activity has been done or is proposed to be done, and impose appropriate conditions on it. So for chopping down a bunch of trees, I would think the best remedy would be to order them to replant.
Yeah, but the problem with that is you're talking about massive trees versus replants.
Right.
And we do that. I'm not questioning that. I'm talking, my concern is just to get them to come before us and go through the process. We have, bylaws, wetland bylaws, and they're violating them by cutting the trees down. They're all within the zone. I'm not talking about something that's out.
Yeah. Understood.
And there
again,
really isn't, if you look at one of these places, I mean, they want, we call it vista pruning. They want to put a big house in, and they just want to clear everything between the house and the lake.
Mhm.
And if you want to plant something, they'll say, okay, I'm going to put some arborvitaes along the edge next to my neighbor. So that, and that's what you end up with. So.
Yeah. Again, I think the way to get them before you is through an enforcement order.
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just know the process, and I'm saying that the illegal, or non-approved process is much more convenient.
Yeah,
Understood.
Go ahead.
question, there's no deterrent factor by letting them back up and submit and plant some small trees that cost $100 a piece. There's no deterrent there. I think there has to be something that a penalty, in my opinion. I mean, they just look us in the eye and they just say, "Oh yeah, I just did it. I needed them down and I cut them." Well, yeah, these trees. We're talking trees this big around.
Understood.
So, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way the state of the Wetlands Protection Act works. I don't know.
But right, and I think it sounds like, right, we need to review that language, and maybe our individual town bylaw, which says that we have to be structured by a written warning, $25, $100, that can be changed, and maybe that's the avenue to giving some type of penalty, and we can then say, yes, you admitted, you know what I mean, that was a violation, and this is a fine to you, contractor, who knew that. But I think what Alex is saying too is that, like, with the enforcement order, we issue the enforcement order and we say what we need. Maybe we give deadlines for that, which do tend to get missed. I think maybe we need to say in that, if this is not received on this day, you're gonna have start with fines, and it's in the enforcement order, to help get what you're looking for.
Right. So the enforcement order can say fines will begin. The enforcement order itself can't enforce the fines. The
Yes.
fines are through the non-criminal disposition process.
Yeah.
So you'd start issuing the tickets and, sending them certified mail and sending them to the court. On a daily basis.
Right, so the tickets would have to be issued on a daily basis. Every day a ticket has to be issued.
Yes.
You can't say, after a month, we're issuing a ticket for $3,000. You do a daily ticket.
Do you have towns that are active in filing the tickets?
Some, yes.
Maybe I could
It's,
ask you for some of their names, and I can see if they have policies that maybe would help us develop
absolutely. And
one.
again, most of the district courts have actual forms that you can use.
Okay.
Some.
Yeah, we have the tickets. We have the tickets, yeah.
Now, to the end of the tree cutting, not to be redundant, but now, so let's say we start finding them against a cutting, against the trees that they've cut down. How do they solve the, how do they get solution? An approved order of conditions on the site, or?
Ultimately, yeah, I think that should be the goal, is for them to file a notice of intent,
Yeah.
file an order of conditions saying restore the site through XYZ process, through these plantings, limiting the use to this area, whatever the conditions may be. I think that should be the ultimate goal.
Okay.
Right, and that's typically what we've asked for in these recent
Yeah.
projects that have come up. We've asked for a restoration plan with a notice of intent for them.
Yeah, we've done all of this, except we really have not fined.
Legally speaking, how much leeway do we have to dictate exactly what restoration needs to be done and in what position on the property the restoration needs to be done?
Quite a bit of leeway. I mean, I wouldn't say, so it needs to be reasonable and proportional, I think, to the.
Sure, but if somebody takes down 22 40-year-old trees and we're requesting them to put back 44 new trees in a specific area, that's, doesn't seem unproportional, right?
Well, we have a bylaw that says 2 to 1.
Right.
Right. But
Cut down a tree, you have to
the
plant 2.
requests tend to be, I want to cut right in front of the water and I want to replant on the border. And we tend to accept that.
And the
So-
size, the 2-to-1 size deal is, it's disproportionate,
Right.
big time.
So maybe we need to visit it that way.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me that what the remedy is we want people to come before us before they do this for approval, then the penalty needs to be proportionate to the impact,
Yeah.
right? And if what they're trying to do is vista cutting, then we need to come up with a plan that is going to be in opposition to that vista cutting.
There doesn't seem to be a penalty, though.
Well, if it's,
Or you wanna go to
if it
next
doesn't accomplish their goal and it creates a nuisance and it puts an order of conditions on their property, that's probably not something that people are gonna necessarily want, right?
Right, well, that's.
Because until the order of conditions are closed, we can very easily call them back in front of the commission. Correct? So, my whole goal of being on this commission is to work with property owners, but at the same time, if people are playing fast and loose with the laws, we need to enforce it, and we need to enforce it with a hammer.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we're all on here to work with the property owner.
Yeah.
That's the charge that we're given. And it very clearly states in our handbook to work with proponent for a project to show them how to get something permitted that is permittable.
Correct.
And we
Should
like
always be
doing that,
available.
and we bend over backwards and maybe even overstep our recommendations because we're theoretically experts in this field. But we do have an issue here with penalties, and I strongly believe in deterrent factor because I've made it work. I worked for the Department of Environmental Protection for 25 years in the West.
Yeah, they have more leeway in terms of penalties.
Right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify something you mentioned earlier about when you issue a ticket, there's basically 3 copies. One goes to the owner, operator, the other goes to the town, and the third is the district court.
Right.
And so it's really the district court that follows up on people that don't pay the fines.
Well, Becky would be in touch with the court, with the clerk. And at a certain point, the court would schedule a hearing once the fines get to, well, it varies from court to court, but once it gets to a fairly significant amount, the court will schedule a hearing and require the owner or the contractor to come in and either pay or put a valid reason why they don't have to pay.
So these tickets would be issued on a daily basis. On a daily basis, we'd be sending a copy to the court. They would be getting these tickets, and it would still be Becky's responsibility to reach out to the court and say, when a certain threshold is reached.
Well, that they're not being paid. We'd have to
They're
let,
not.
court wouldn't know they're being paid unless,
Right, you would follow up with them and say, maybe, we can talk with the clerk and see what their policy is.
Okay.
It varies from court to court, but usually they want you to check in every couple weeks. And then they'll schedule a hearing when they think it's appropriate.
Is this daily or every workday or just, or every day?
Weekdays.
Weekdays only? Yeah.
Does it say when that fine is due on the form, on the
20,
ticket?
yes.
Does it
yes.
say when it has to be paid? Okay. That's clear.
Becky, do you want to go on to the
Well, I think.
Holland Road?
Well, we talked generally about unpaid fines.
Yeah.
One thing, I guess, there was an enforcement order issued historically. There was also fines to get them to meet the items in the enforcement order, and they stopped once they actually filed the appropriate information. So I think they followed the correct procedure then, but nothing was paid. But permit was issued to have some restoration work done, so this predates my time. Some work was completed. The permit was issued not to the property owner, but the contractor. Contractor's long gone, property owner's kind of absentee, not in the state. That permit's still open, starting to do more work on the property, new contractors, multiple entities out there, property owner's still the same person. It's just been a site that's had past issues, we're seeing it again. This is where some of the fine issues have come up, but moving forward, I think that a permit in the property owner's name would probably be best if we're looking to move forward with compliance with that permit, which addresses the initial enforcement order. We also have items in our new enforcement order. I'm not sure if that needs to be a separate permit or not. I guess, it's some specific stuff there, but in general, the permit should be in the property owner's.
So it can be the property owner or the contractor, but the property owner is responsible even if it is in the
Ultimately.
contractor's name. So if you were to issue an enforcement order, I would recommend it being sent to both the property owner and whatever contractor is currently operating there.
And then the permit issued afterwards, I guess, use discretion at that point, but in a situation like this, it might be best that if a contractor might walk away, it's the property owner who's ultimately responsible.
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
I think that's part of the issue with that one, so.
You all set on that?
I think so. I think the other things are kind of specific that we can talk
Yeah,
about
I can-
afterwards.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Nope.
That's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys
Alex.
very much. Great to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank
Nice
you.
meeting you. Joel still working with you guys?
Oh, yes,
Yeah?
in between his ski trips.
Minutes?
Minutes.
However, we'll have to wait on the November 5th minute approval, as two of you weren't present at that meeting, we won't have a quorum to approve them. So we'll continue that one to the next one. However, we have the October 15th, 2019 minutes.
So David had,
Want to wait on those.
yeah, he wanted to wait till you guys had a chance to comment on those minutes.
Those were sent out before the last meeting, so.
So I had no notes.
So the October 15th meeting? Do I have a,
No issues.
A motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second it.
any discussion at all? All in favor? And the other one you want to hold? Is that what you said, November 5th?
Right, we'll hold the November 5th.
Yeah,
We'll need
okay.
to, because they weren't at the past meeting.
All right. CPA, we have not had a meeting. Trails Committee will have to hold because Mr. Barnacle is, I know they had trail work this last weekend was a trail day, but
Right.
update. Open Space, nothing there. And Lakes Advisory, anything there?
No meetings. I believe they are adjourning for the winter, and the first meeting is planned for sometime in March.
March, huh?
There's a lot of snowbirds on that group, so, quorum challenges.
Becky, what do you
But
got?
Eric's on, they've been informed, we tracked down some of the members and,
I warned them.
Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly.
So
All
they
right.
They meet on Thursdays, is that what's a month?
I don't have an official scheduled meeting, so.
it used to be
continued.
Thursdays, so,
Yeah.
yeah. But, I mean, it actually will give us some time as we start to compile some items maybe to bring forward that have been a concern to the commission, like the private roads and anything else, and maybe we can, map out some of the, I was on Tantasco Shore Road today, which made me think of it, because there's two spots that are pretty bad, and that's one of the private roads that, could benefit from paving and drainage structures, and maybe we could work on that over the winter before you go, and you can
Sure.
bring items for discussion.
Sounds
Yeah.
fantastic.
That'd be awesome.
We have a couple of people that have already shown some interest, so we can put you in touch with them.
Great.
Aren't you glad?
I'm psyched.
Call, if you have questions,
That's what I get for raising my hand.
call Eric. Oh, yeah.
What do you want to do? You got things to sign?
I do, I have one thing to sign. So this is a request for a certificate of compliance, DEP file number 300-550. So this is an older one. This is 34 Tannery Road. This was the Allen Homestead. Permit was issued to the builder. It's had a new property owner. They're in the middle of selling the property. It came up through the title search. So
Didn't we sign it?
Nope, we did not sign this one at the last one. It was on our agenda. I asked to wait because we didn't receive, there was some issues out there on the site
Okay.
where they moved the house and had to do a new plan. It does have a large retaining wall in the back. According to the request for certificate of compliance from DEP, they have to give us, if it requires an engineered plan, it's supposed to have a letter from an engineer saying it's in substantial compliance. Although some of these older ones, it's fairly easy to go out there and take note of things, but considering it's got a drainage structure in the property, had some enforcement issues, and has a large retaining wall, which we saw was an issue somewhere else, I wanted to make sure that we had something from an engineer before he signed off on it. So we did
All right.
receive something from an engineering saying it's in substantial compliance. A few small things that were different, however, they don't think they're things that are of impact or of concern. I did go out there today and take a look at it, and I agree. So the deck is a little bit larger than what was asked for. It did not change the limit of work line. There's actually, I can show you some photos. There's right behind the house, there's a drop off, just like one of the ones we recently looked at. So there's no change of the limit of work line. There was one small area that was supposed to have riprap on it. It's lawn, but it's within the limit of work area. I don't see that as a concern. I'll pull up the plan and show you. And then I also followed up because the permit requires, one of the ongoing conditions was that the property owner maintain there's a drainage structure on the property, a detention basin. However, that's when it was a private road. It's now a public road that DPW maintains. I did call them. They did confirm that they maintain these drainage structures. So it's kind of unusual that it would be in here on the individual property, but there'll be an easement or something for the town to do it. So some things have changed since then. Town has taken care of that.
There were a couple of those houses that you could use as hang gliding launch sites, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, this is one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. So there's a couple ongoing conditions. One, I added the detention basin on there just because it was in the permit. Yeah, no depositing of trash or debris on the other side of the retaining wall. No use of pesticides, herbicides. I would recommend that you sign it. I can show you the photographs out there if you'd like to see them.
Sure.
Okay. So,
Due diligence.
you can see where the fence is. There's a retaining wall on the other side of that. And I think he noted that this retaining wall might not have been shown on the plan. Not a big deal. It's a small thing. See the retaining wall? This is looking over, down.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
How far does that drop off?
I would say it's about 20 feet or so.
20 feet?
Well, maybe a little less. I don't know. Everything looks big to me, I'm sure, but
What's holding it up? It looks
Stone.
Yeah.
there's blocks there. So right in this area, you can't really see it, but there's riprap in there. A small portion was also supposed to be riprap. It's lawn. I don't see that as a impact. Wetland is off-site down in the back here. I have their report. I thought I saved it. Where did I save it?
Wow. Everything looks.
I mean, I have the report right here, but there's a. I don't know if I saved the report. I didn't save the report there, but you can see on the plan here, I gave him a copy of the plan. That little area where the riprap was supposed to be is right here. It's not causing an impact in the wetland in the back. It doesn't look like anyone's going back there and using that area. I don't know how they get there, but
So this retaining wall was on the plan?
correct, yes. Unlike that other one, that was an issue, if you remember.
Okay.
Yeah, but I just wanted to make
It's
sure.
all engineered and the engineer certifies that it's,
Well, they're saying that the site is in substantial compliance with the permit we issued and the plan that was issued. So that's what we have signed off on. Obviously, the site, when it was built, the building inspector would inspect all of that, and there would have to be, because it's an engineered wall, it's over 4 feet.
Right.
They would have to have something that would show that the wall, some type of,
the reason I'm asking is just because a wall that substantial, if it were to fail, is right next to a wetland, right?
right, just
So-
like that other one.
Right. Okay.
So they should have something in there, in the building department, that signed off on that property, including that wall at that time, so.
Okay.
I'm gonna trust the engineer.
What is next? What do you got, Beck?
All right, let's go. Meeting schedule, did you guys have a chance to look at the meeting schedule that Holly emailed?
Did.
So we're adding meetings to the summer?
Well, that's open to discussion. So we
I'm not
put.
a fan of meetings,
We had
Right.
some-
especially additional ones.
We
Well-
had some long meetings
Right.
last summer
So,
We did.
right.
till 11:30.
Holly put on there what the meetings would be if we did 2 in each month. Now, July, I think, is probably the hardest month, and maybe would be good to go down to 1, but this past year, we did August and September, and those are the ones that we had really long ones. The July one was long too, I think, but
Right.
maybe there's, hi, Paul. We don't have to, I guess, necessarily hash out ones that far in advance. We usually do like 3 or 4 months at a time, but we don't have to hash out the July ones yet,
Did
but if,
anybody have any conflicts that they wanted to change?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not yet.
I
Yeah.
haven't looked out there, but, you know, my,
Have that-
the
when do you have
reality
that
is, I
saved?
think
'Cause I
we
didn't
need to
print
make
it.
sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure we're utilizing word economy, both, on both this side of the mic and that side of the mic, and we're not belaboring points, because I think has some issues with why our meetings are going as long as they are.
Now, is what you're saying, no.
I don't know.
It was a joke.
well, yeah, we did have a lot of items.
Sure.
Right, yeah.
I get it, I
And
understand.
I think partly, maybe it was not this summer, but last summer, that happened in July. I think we had another long one in July. And a lot of it was, I think, because of real estate transactions, all those old certificates of compliance. So I think there's other things that influence it, but, right, if there's some way to lessen,
That's more of a general comment than it is
Yeah.
about adding additional meetings.
It-
If we need them because of the number of items on our docket, that makes sense, but.
Well, there's other things. Volume is one thing,
Yeah.
you know, and we haven't seen any volume
who knows?
in reality. No subdivisions. Can you picture, you know, a 50-unit subdivision coming in here and the amount of time that they take? So we really haven't had any of that. We've debated on positioning on things. And those are the things that really take a lot of time, like, you know, things like, 179 Main Street?
The 40B,
Yeah. Problem.
40B we
you
spent a
know,
lot of time.
Those types of things take a tremendous amount of time, and you have to take the time. You have to hear from people, and you can't crush them. You gotta let it flow. So, I think we should, and and we spent, I can remember spending 12 o'clock on a meeting to 12, many times on meetings. So for me to take one meeting in July that goes till 12, I have no problem. The only problem is that if it holds somebody up. So, I mean, that's, that's what you have to look at. But- Are you doing something here, or are you just,
So I found where I saved that. I was looking for something else and found something else, but I didn't know if you wanted to see that plan.
I'm gonna go grab a glass of water. I'm
Okay.
losing my voice.
Well, is everyone okay with up till April? Maybe at least we can do till April. One meeting in February. I'll be taking a vacation, so I won't be here that week. If you feel comfortable proceeding without me.
right?
I'd rather not,
I'm not proceeding without you.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd rather push the meeting to the following week.
Okay, we might have to switch it to a Thursday though, because we alternate with planning. So
Okay.
okay, we'll send something out, email to you.
I
with,
mean, usually that's a pretty light time of
it usually is, yeah.
year, so we could probably get away with just one meeting in February, as opposed to
Okay.
trying to,
Okay.
I would rather
Let's
do
do
the
that.
one meeting
Yeah.
in February.
It's a short month.
right?
It is. All right,
By a day.
all right. We'll revise that, send it out, and just say.
This year only by a day, you're right.
Yeah.
And we usually do, don't we usually do one meeting in December too?
We're doing 2 this December.
Okay,
Last year, I think we did 1, but we're doing 2 this year. We already
Okay.
decided December this year.
All right.
And we're the 3rd and the 17th, so.
okay.
Okay, so we'll set a schedule through April, and then come March, we'll discuss the summer schedule. So that way we can set up, because we need to let people know what the filing deadlines are
Right.
in advance and everything. Okay,
So I move to set the schedule until April with the one,
one meeting.
change being one meeting in February.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Do we need to vote on that?
No.
Oh, we need a consensus, right?
What?
Consensus?
Yeah, we have a consensus.
Okay.
We had a consensus, I think. Perfect. But that was a.
All right. We have a request for us for a minor change to orders and conditions we've issued. This is DEP file number 300-1033. This is 11 McGilpin Road. I will pull up both plans.
Oh, yeah.
So this is, let's see there. We just recently issued a permit for this one, this spring or summer. It was one or the other. Single-family house. We issued a permit. The property owner started work on the property, went through the process with me with the pre-construction, started to meet all the conditions, recorded the permit. We had a meeting, silt fence was in, DEP file number signs were up, started doing some clearing in there, decided not to continue with the project, listed it for sale, sold it. There's a new buyer for the property. So Countryside Homes has bought the property. He came in when he was in the process of buying it, said he wasn't going to make any substantial changes. We talked about the process, if there was any changes to a permitted plan, what that means. What he would like to do, and I have the new plan, but I don't have the old proposed plan underneath it, which would be useful, but I'll pull up the new one. So the new plan, let's get rid of all this stuff. So the proposal is to still come in with the water and sewer line through the back, because that's their only option for it. New house, it's a smaller house. The other house extended about out to here, remember, and the driveway was on this side, and the driveway came in close to the wetland here. He wants to move the driveway further up the hill, so it's a smaller driveway, where you drive into a garage with a smaller home. So it's a smaller footprint. They moved the driveway away. So when he came in and he was discussing the potential for the revisions, I said, well, there was a lot of discussion about where the driveway would go. With sight lines, not something that, we had asked about it because it would be moving it away from the wetland, could be a potential issue. That's something that, before you decide that you think you want to move it, something that came up, you're gonna need a driveway permit with DPW. I would suggest talking to them because they're the ones that are gonna have that concern and dictate, if you can or cannot move it up there if there's a site issue or something like that. So they did talk to DPW and have their approval to move the driveway up, which is away from the wetland. I did talk to him about in the permit, it was written that, underneath the driveway by the road, because we have the drainage swale here. Remember, we had him add the crushed stone down by the wetland. We'd have to work with them, that they'd have to put the pipe underneath that is reflected on this plan.
Are you going to ask us to approve this?
I'm presenting,
Are you, where's the applicant?
he's out of town. I said that I thought that I could adequately explain what the changes were to you on their behalf. I think I did that the last time. It's Countryside Builders. He's come in before and he's had other projects that he's done this, so.
So this is the plan?
This is the plan. The first plan is the one that was approved and is referenced in the permit.
Okay.
So this one, because it's not, they moved the driveway away and it's a smaller footprint on the house, I wouldn't think would appear to be something of concern. I would think that it would be
Do we have it on the agenda?
it's on our agenda.
Right.
Yep.
It's not for an official amendment.
Well, my concern is because there were residents
I
that
agree.
showed
And I
up,
was-
so
yep.
now we're changing the plan.
Well, as far as,
Is there any change in the limit of clearing?
no, limited clearing has not changed. Everything has stayed the same, except the house and the driveway. I did tell him you still want the infiltration trench on the side of the driveway, and that the roof runoff was to be infiltrated. They are infiltrating roof runoff still. The first plan, they had it being piped all the way to the back to a double unit here,
Right.
which isn't really, they were saying wouldn't really be feasible, so they put one in the front, one in the back. So it's the same, we're achieving the same thing, it just looks a little bit differently on the plan. Right, there's a question that, the project plan has changed inside the footprint of what was approved. So, right, the abutters wouldn't know of this change, however, it didn't increase the limit of work, or it's not moving closer to the wetlands. So with their timeline, I said I would add it to our agenda and to bring it to you, so.
So by moving the driveway away from resource area, that's an improvement, and it's a smaller footprint.
Yes,
So there's
for the
less
house.
impact as well there, right?
The house and the
But
driveway.
overall, the project, for our purposes, is an improvement over the previous project. Okay.
I would think so, based off of those things, yeah.
I guess the only issue, from our perspective, it's a much better plan. A minor change, the definition generally is that a reasonable person drives by and doesn't really notice anything that's different.
Yeah.
So if they do notice something, it's an improvement, but nevertheless, that's the only hangup. I like the new plan.
Yeah.
I guess my only concern is that we don't have an applicant here. If we don't get what we think we're getting, the only person we have to answer to is Becky. Becky's presenting the plan to us.
Is there some kind of timeline that this person has that?
Well, they want to start building immediately. They want to be able to move the driveway and put the new foundation in immediately. I mean, I explained, it has to come to a meeting, and there's a process for an amendment, and there's a minor change. If it's something that you see fit, you can do it through that process, so.
I don't have a problem with it.
I like this plan much better than the other one,
Yeah.
because of the moving of the driveway, that's a huge, but I'm with you that I'm a little, because there was public interest in this, and the public was here, expressing concerns, particularly about, I don't know.
Wasn't the public, the main concern, well, partly the driveway, but partly the whole thing with where the sewer and
They
water,
brought the sewer in from the other street.
and that wasn't our issue,
That's not
so.
ours.
Well, yeah, I know, but I think the moving of the driveway, I don't know. I'm just thinking of the property owner that's immediately adjacent to that. I don't know, because now that driveway and the parking space is right there on the edge of the property, as opposed to being, further downhill. I mean, that's not really our concern, but.
Right. I look at it as an improvement. But it's not a minor change.
No. No, that's my problem.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I think
I
I
agree
really
with
like
that.
the plan, but it's a public process, and it's not a minor change. So theoretically, it really needs to go back to a hearing.
Right, this is definitely not a situation where someone who was at the original hearing and the plan we approved, if they drove by this and saw this, they would say, that's not what was approved when I
Right.
saw it. Yeah.
But,
We're not approving
along with that, though,
aesthetics. We're approving
there's no question.
the
Wait a
wetland.
minute, wait a minute, we got
impact,
two
right?
people going here at the same time.
Go ahead.
I'm just, I guess, and listen, I do have some ignorance of the exact law and process, but we're not holding an open hearing about the aesthetics. We're holding an open hearing about the wetland impact, and there is an improvement on the wetland impact. So I would think, under what we are charged with evaluating, nobody could come in and say that this isn't a better plan for what we are charged with doing, is my thought. They can argue about the aesthetics, that's not what we're here to, it's not what we're here to discuss.
I don't think we've talked about aesthetics at all.
Right, well, as Stephen just mentioned, where the orientation of the driveway near somebody else's property, that seems aesthetics to me, as long as we don't feel like this plan is going to impact their property with regards to the wetland. I don't know that we need to discuss any further, and the property owner provided us the plan, so I don't know that Becky's on the hook for the explanation, that if the property owner does not adhere to the plan, then we have remedies against that. I don't know, that's just my 2 cents.
That's the conundrum. I agree with you, it's a good plan.
My recommendation is that we have the builder come in and represent the plan.
So if he
For the
files for a
commission.
formal amendment, we schedule a public hearing and there's a butter notification. Is that what you're saying you
Yeah.
want?
That's what I'd like to do. Then we
I,
have,
I have to agree with that, because I don't view this as something that should be a minor change. I understand your point that from a
you're
wetland
correct as far
impact.
as the statements you make. I just don't think that in the overall that we.
We have to be careful about,
Well, I understand,
saying
but
what is
we
a
really
minor
do.
change.
Yeah, it is not a minor change. It's a great change. I love
Right.
it, but it's not a minor change.
Yeah, and I don't
You
have
know,
a,
we're
right.
stuck with the law.
So all in favor of having him file for a change?
Amendment?
I'll abstain.
All right.
No, you vote against it.
All right, I'll vote against it.
There
That's
you go.
fine, yes, I'll
Yeah,
vote against
that's,
it.
yeah, there you go.
Okay.
That's well said, you know, I mean, that's,
All right.
I've been
What's
on the
next?
side of
Now-
that where the lawyers come in,
Besides the,
just because they.
besides the driveway, sorry, I just want to ask this
Yeah.
question because I know I'm going to get asked this question because this person is very anxious to be working.
Right.
Besides the driveway, if it was just the change of the house, just the putting the smaller house in the footprint of the larger house that was approved, that would probably be more acceptable to just do as a minor change. So my question is, which I know I'm gonna get asked, would you be okay if he puts the foundation in for the smaller house without relocating the driveway at this time and coming back for the formal amendment process for the driveway? Because I think that's the biggest issue with what the change would be, right?
Well,
Yeah.
that has a separate garage, right? What was
This?
what was the,
The original,
It was underneath the house.
yeah.
original was underneath the
Right.
house? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if this came before, yeah, if all he was doing was making the footprint smaller of the house, I would consider that a minor
Right, and
change.
we have for this person, for just a house, small house shift change, done the minor change.
Right.
Right.
So that would not impede his ability to pour the foundation at this time. It's just an access issue where they're accessing from on the road to be able to do that, because they still need access in.
Yeah,
So-
that's a good point.
So they're gonna need access?
Well, they might have access in the
Yeah,
backside,
yeah.
so,
No.
okay.
So-
All right, I'll let
so
them know their
what-
options.
What's the document, since Dave Barnacle isn't here, how do we get that on paper that we would approve it? What are we gonna be approving? We've got the old plan and we got the new plan, but we don't have the new plan without the driveway change.
Yep.
So,
We've already voted that we need a,
Okay, I mean, it's an unusual situation because work was approved to start on this already. So they had the ability to go in.
on that.
Exactly,
the
with
original
the
house.
previous property owner.
Previous
Yep.
house, yeah. And the land is cleared,
Yep,
it's ready to go,
yep,
and now he wants to make a change.
yep. Okay,
So, and it's a major change, so he has to bring it before us.
okay. No, I'll tell him, I just want to make sure that if I was asked, I'd understand what your concerns.
which one of us, either somebody that voted for it or somebody that voted against it, and I'm loose on my Robert's rules, somebody can reopen this. I just can't remember which one of us can.
But it's the person who said that they want less words in the meeting. So we're gonna try and move on.
Yeah, but there's a lot at stake here. And Becky raises a good point.
All set?
Okay. It's 6:15 now.
All right.
Read the opening statement.
In the interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, water body, or resource area, and/or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body, or resource area, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the Town of Sturbridge Wetland Bylaws and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to opening the first hearing for each project, the applicant is to submit proof of notification to abutters within 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. If these items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. If any of the visitors have not legibly signed in yet, please do. Also, if any visitors are recording this meeting, please let us know. Thank you.
All right, 6:15, we have a request for determination of applicability for 50 Hall Road, Paul Watson, Environmental Regulate Compliance Officer for OFS, Patel, owner. How you doing, Paul?
Yes, yep.
Do you
Uh,
want notices?
Yep, I'll take everything. Yeah, so that's the,
These are the receipts. for it.
perfect, that's the one that came back. You gave me the other ones.
This is the one that I got.
Yep,
I didn't get the other ones. but
Okay.
They're all in here.
Okay.
This is a list of all the addresses.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So, just so you guys know, before Paul starts explaining the project, we're gonna have discussion. We're not opening the public hearing. It was just an issue with the legal ad. So the legal ad didn't get submitted. So we'll have this continued and we'll actually have the public hearing and vote on it at our next meeting. But he wanted to come in and discuss it since he was already on the schedule, so.
Okay.
All right, Paul, do you want to explain the project, what you're proposing? I just pulled this up for
Yeah,
for
that's
reference.
helpful. Well,
Yep, you have a pointer right there in front of you, too.
And name and,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm Paul Watson, and I work for OFS at 50 Hall Road. The Hall Road is right here. If you come in one of the driveways and go right to the top here, there's a significant swale that was put in for the water that comes off of this hill and back of the property. And with time, we found that activity up on this hill can impact the amount of water that comes down. And we actually had a landslide here about 15 years ago. But right now, the drain, which is located right here in the swale, is not working right because of all the soil that has come down. Not to pin it on something that is going on up here. It's just that with time, there is a significant water flow that comes down, particularly during the springtime, where it pretty much looks like a river. And it comes down and it does not drain in the drain that's here for the purpose of taking all the water, but it does go through the swale. So our facility guys dug by hand where the drain was to get the soil off. So right now you can see the drain, but all the riprap that was put in there, which is meant to not be filled up with soil, is filled with soil right now. So what we'd like to do is take out the riprap that isn't functioning, and then put in fresh riprap. We would also like to modify the drain. I don't know the details of exactly what that is yet, but the contractor, we did have one contractor quote the job and they had an idea of what to do. So that's the basics of the work. It would involve digging out the riprap. The contractor that did the one quote.
around the drain, right?
Yes.
That circle around the drain.
Approximately 10 to 15 feet. I mean, if you look at the riprap that's out from the drain, you can actually see the rocks and you can see that they're still kind of whitish. But the stuff that's around the drain, you know, like it's hard to even see the riprap because of all the soil that's come down.
A total of 10 to 15 feet? Is that what you mean?
Approximately, yeah.
A circle of 15-foot diameter?
Approximately, I wouldn't say it's a circle, maybe.
Right, there's a swale that
but,
goes up on the side.
But yeah, my comment is I'm concerned about how far down you go to
Okay.
either side with clearing the swale.
Yeah,
Sure.
so
Go
Did you
ahead,
want to
Steve.
comment, Steve?
the concern is that there's some vegetation that's grown in here.
Zoom in.
Yeah, that's great. Or is it, I guess it's in here. Is this the stream,
Um,
Yeah.
basically?
well, this is the parking lot, so the stream comes down, I believe it's right here.
The day we were there, it was raining, and there was actually
At the
water
top of the
flowing.
hill.
Yeah.
There was water flowing through the swale, I guess. Is that here then?
It's hard to tell from
I-
this photo, because this is
This
an older
looks like an older
photo where you
picture,
can see
yeah.
the riprap. This is a 2015.
This doesn't
But-
What is that dark? Is that the roof?
That's a shadow.
Shadow from the roof.
Shadow from
Yeah.
the roof?
Yeah, this is a fairly old picture. In 2016, we put in a shelter to put sand that used to be stored over here.
Yeah,
So
you
this
probably see it
that's
on this one.
Yeah.
This is leaf on. These are newer ones. It's just
looks-
harder to see everything.
right.
So the
Yeah.
2015 is the most
Yeah.
recent leaf off
Yeah.
pictures. But I guess just to add, so when Paul called, I mean, I've worked with OFS before. We've gone out there. We talked about they have a lot of stuff going on in their site, a lot of resource areas around there. They don't really have an O&M plan for their parking lot. If they had an O&M plan, as this was, constructed before and it was permitted when it was done, this could be like a normal maintenance activity. So I recommended before that maybe work towards developing an O&M plan that gets approved so they can do these normal type of things. So for this portion of it, we know that actually what's coming down here, and you can see the line a little bit, is actually an intermittent stream. So when they built this, they were allowed to culvert that intermittent stream underneath the parking lot. So what flows over, that's why you see all the high flows in the spring and, in the fall, it's actually a stream.
Right.
But they had permission to do this. Today, it wouldn't happen. But, so it's coming down, it's washed a lot of sediment, hasn't been kept up with, so it's kind of a little bit more of a concern. We've got a lot of wetland vegetation growing in those old riprap swales. I guess my recommendation would be is that, we can't approve this and figure out what our conditions we'd want. Obviously, when the contractor's figured out for it, obviously I have a pre-construction meeting with them. We can outline exactly where that work would stop, so we're not impacting what technically is developed as a wetland here at this point in time. Also, to condition the work to not be done during some type of rain event that we're going to have, because there's going to be a lot of water coming down that still needs to make it through there. So timing of that's kind of important, but I don't think it's a very big job. It's probably 1 or 2 days, and I think that could be worked around. I think it kind of may have to be, because there's going to be a lot of water coming down the hillside there. Keeping the limit of work is one thing I noted, to the 10 to 15 feet, which is what we talked about when we had called you when we were out there,
Yeah.
which sounds like that's probably what you need. And as long as we can establish where that kind of line is, which I think is easy to see out there, that we can look at together with your contractor, making sure that's clearly understood, I think that can satisfy that concern. And then, working to develop that O&M plan, because a lot of, these riprap detention basins require some type of vacuuming, like I think we had talked about. There's different companies that'll come out and vacuum it. Maybe you've had it done before.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, developing, some type of maintenance plan for these things will help keep it so that way you can have permission to just do these type of activities, and it
Okay.
ultimately protects the resource area in the long run. So those were my few notes, but I think that, right, it's kind of a unique situation, because usually you don't see a intermittent stream coming down the hillside and going into one of these structures like this, but back in the day, they were allowed to do a lot of those things, so.
Any comments on it? So you'd like a continuation till the next meeting?
Okay.
Right,
We continue? All in favor?
okay.
Okay.
So Paul, next meeting, I think that, right, and if you have some more details from a contractor at that point in time, we can get those. If not, we add in these determinations a lot of conditions. It's not the same permit you got last time. It's a simplified determination of applicability with some conditions, but it'll allow you to start work fairly soon after we issue it, the appeal period, so.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you.
Thanks for coming in.
And Becky's right, you should have a maintenance plan for that, so you don't have to come before us.
Okay.
6:30, request for determination of applicability for 4A Paradise Lane. Joseph Mooney, owner, Glenn Kowalski, EBT Environmental Consultant, Inc. Hi, Glenn.
I'm coming right up to that mic, because I know that's where you have to talk. Thank you again very much.
Glenn, do you have the legal ad and
Yes, we sent that over to you,
do it ahead of, oh, you did, you sent those, sorry.
right, because of,
Yeah.
right. And I have another copy here, if you don't.
No, I have it, thank you.
The electronic, now it's easier to find them, it's all electronic, right? And we
Thank
did
you.
have the newspaper, too. And we have the certificate of mailing, I believe my office also scanned this and sent it, but here's the-
Yeah, you sent it to me, sorry, I forgot
here's
that
the
we
hard copy.
got it all electronic.
Have that worry when we get here. Thank you again for the site inspection earlier. In the project, these are the, making sure this is the this is the.
Yeah, Glenn, I haven't told him about the revised plan yet since it
Well,
came.
as
so,
per our
yeah.
discussion at the site inspection, there was the swale on the side we proposed on the, should I say, the east side of the house, where water presently does flow through the grass. The engineer has defined it more, and he also put a small rain garden in before we get to the big alum. There's a detail on the rain garden. We felt there was no increase in runoff on the CN number on that compacted stone dust is 96, and the coefficient of infiltration, and the coefficient of infiltration on the asphalt is 98. They're very close. And then there was a slight reduction in pavement from what's the stone dust out there now. And there was no increase in runoff on all storm events, and that was prior to putting the rain garden in for an extra scrubber of water coming down in the road direction to the lake. But we did note, because the commission asked, did you see, or was there evidence of water flowing off the road also coming down this driveway? Because that impacts a lot, and there wasn't any real evidence coming off the road. There was a slight rise at the top of the driveway, which both indicate that the water flows from a west to an east direction down the roadway, plus or minus. And unlike a lot of these dirt roads, which do run directly into yards, this one, the flow pattern is not off the road into the existing stone dust. Again, I have water running on and off 12 on my property, and it's evident, and it's very evident when you normally see it working on a last little side detail, working on a trout brook on 31. It's evident where the water leaves this dirt road. Over time, obviously, you get this little erosion, little bit of dip. There's no dip at all on this driveway at the top, again, indicating we're not taking road runoff. So the client also wanted the slight 1-inch deep, that's that horseshoe-looking thing at the
I'm
end.
gonna zoom in.
I'm sorry I'm not using this.
No, no,
I'm
that's
not
all right.
u-
I mean, I tried
I'm
to
sorry,
zoom in,
I'm-
but I couldn't show the whole plan, so I wanted you to be
Yeah,
able to
so
give your
there's this
overview,
dip,
but-
and then there's the
yeah.
swale coming down.
Yeah.
I can read it now, Becky.
I'm
Well, I wanted
sorry.
to see
It
the
was
whole
my
thing while
fault.
he was
Sure,
giving
thanks
his
a lot.
explanation.
Yeah. So, the engineer was existing grades. We've been doing some work in town with him. And I believe, this is his plan. We ended up using this erosion control at the bottom of it. And then we had another one down at the lake, just at the end of the whole swale system down below here. And I suppose we could expand that a bit more. There is a piece of wood. What is it? Mr. Mooney is here. Mr. Mooney, aren't you? And what do you have right here along this edge that keeps it into this area?
Use the microphone and introduce yourself, if you would, please.
Joe Mooney, and
There is a slight berm type of some kind of setup
Like
that
a
doesn't allow it
landscape
to go
timber
over
or
here.
something over here?
alongside the house, there's brick pavers in the ground.
Right there, okay,
as
so that's
edging.
brick pavers, I'm sorry, yeah. Thank you again, Mr. Mooney. Thank you, Chairman, for Mr. Mooney. So and this is so we don't dump water towards the neighbor, so we have a slight, little hollow, imperceptible, but 1 inch deep to continue the water down this direction, through the grass. It's 82 feet, this closest point to the lake. The lake had no wetlands on it, as you might have seen. It's a retaining wall. I made that statement on the plan. I believe that's the project. If I could ask my client, if it's relevant. When do you plan on doing this, if you had time?
The driveway?
Yes. If you can tell me out. Spring. Thank you.
Okay. Glenn, can you just explain to him the redefining of the swale on the side, what that would include? What kind of,
Just that narrow width, we would end up taking off the topsoil, taking that down to the depth that the engineer has.
that's just by hand, that's not like you need a
Right.
large equipment to go back there or anything?
Minor definition of the swale. As you can see, the contour 94, and and 93. We're making sure that we define it so water does stay.
Okay.
The pavers holding it in that direction, so it doesn't go to the east. But we did want to allow for a somewhat sheet flow going down through the grass, keeping it on our property, and then hitting that rain garden.
Yeah, I'll pull this up so they can see this as well. Do you want to talk about this? This is more of a grass swale
It
garden.
has a matrix to it, the swale, as the rain garden. We didn't put plants in it, we wanted it so that he could mow it, so the grass is gonna be the species in there. It's just a dip with the proper matrix, 2 to 3 inches of mulch underneath it, undisturbed native soil, which is that Hollis Chatfield ledge outcrop, hydrologic soil group B, as I recall. So it's a fairly good infiltration soil, not as good as A, but definitely not C and D. And so the contractor will have to build this small depression, 10 feet long, 2 feet wide, as the note shows. And it's only becomes approximately a half-inch. Top of rain garden, 92.5. We can see the between 92 and 93, the existing contours. So he will be bringing that down just to give us approximately 4 to 5 inches of depth in this 10-foot long, 2-foot wide structure to drop a few more fines out. If we don't anticipate fines with the asphalt, but it does give us a little bit more infiltration over and above the no net increase in runoff. So that would give us that slight decrease in runoff.
Okay, but you've used these on other,
We're working with rain gardens of both planted rain gardens with herb and bush, but in this case, because there was no net increase, but there was a request by staff, we did want to put something in the ground that would scrub this water a little bit more, infiltrate it a little bit more. As we know, this is an RDA, it's not an NOI, and we're hoping not to go to the next step of NOI.
Okay. Yep, all right, well, thank you, Glenn.
Okay.
All right, so, right, we had a site visit, they revised the plan to reflect, we did ask, we said, we mentioned how, we look for some type of management of water, whether there's an increase or not, it's something that when we're looking at these projects close to resource areas, been looking for some type of infiltration on these sites as we go along. These, it's a small site, but cumulatively around the lake, it can help with overall water quality in the long run. So thank you for including that on there. I think it will be a good improvement. We haven't seen the grass swales come in for us as a rain garden. That's why I asked you to explain it a little bit, but I think that for this size and nature, I think that it would be sufficient. We see how it works out. This is an RDA, as you see. As we know, DEP has that policy 99-1 where small projects outside of the 50-foot buffer zone don't have to go through the NOI process and receive orders of conditions, provided it meets certain criteria and the commission feels comfortable with it moving forward. So one of the things is it's the impact is less than 5,000 square feet. It's outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. They do some type of management of storm water. It's not within MAP priority habitat. So I do feel this is something that we can review and approve through the determination process versus orders of conditions. I think that I'd recommend that we have our general conditions where we do a pre-construction meeting with the contractor, go over and make sure they understand. It sounds like you're going to wait till spring to do it, which is a good time, so that's something that we can just do at that time. Have them implement the swale for you. We would just do a sign off on that and make sure that it's functioning correctly and everything looks good out there. I think it's, right, just paving the driveway, it's a smaller project, I think. Feel comfortable, I'd recommend moving forward with this process for it. I'm glad they added in the rain garden.
But, just a sec.
Wait a minute.
Eric?
When we were on the property doing, there was a wooden, buffer, if you will, at the end of the driveway. Is that going to remain, or is that going to be pulled out?
That would be removed.
That'd be removed. Okay. Thank you.
That piece of wood you're talking about.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
like a 2x4 put
Yes,
inside.
yes, sir, I just want to be, yep,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm good.
Audience?
I'm Bill Sanderson, and I am at 86 Paradise, next door.
I knew you were.
My comment is not on the project, I'm fine with that. It's the runoff on the road. That, I understand there's gonna be a little bit of a berm on the end of the new driveway, which will send the water down the road, which I already get quite a bit down my
Yeah,
driveway.
you already looked, it's already that way.
It's running that way down.
Now.
Now, yes.
I looked at it, I took a look at it.
Yeah, is there any chance that within the project that I could extend the berm across my driveway to direct the water flow to the other side of the road that would then go down to the drain that's already there and well-maintained by the people on the lake?
You'd have to talk to DPW about that. Although it's a private
No.
road,
That's a
right?
It's a private
Yeah,
road.
it's a
Road,
private
yeah.
road.
So you've got your neighbor,
Yep,
and the neighbor across the street.
that's me.
You're across.
Both sides.
You're on both sides?
There's no house across the street.
Yeah.
It's an open lot, 86.
This is up in the,
This is the other one. This is his right here. And this is the project site.
Yep.
Right, do we know that it would, by putting that berm, it would direct it across the street like you're
We'd
intending?
like to flow across the street. It would hit that drain along the side of the road, would flow down past the dumpster to the swale
Yep,
that's
I
there.
remember seeing
And then it would
that.
go through the
I don't
drain
remember.
that's
I
there.
don't remember looking at it.
Yeah.
I looked at it right up the top of the hill,
Yep.
and we can take a look. It's a separate.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a separate request.
I think, right, I was wondering what your feeling would be on it if we were to go ahead and extend the
If you
berm just
berm the
across,
road to reverse it onto the other side,
to send it across the road.
generally speaking, without seeing it, I would say yes.
Yeah.
How
But-
far is it from the
Where is it,
resource
right?
area?
It's 170 feet approximately
Yeah.
from the lake.
We'll send Becky out to.
Oh, yeah.
The next
There you
site visit, we'll take a look at it.
Okay,
Well-
that'd be great.
So-
Right, I would say too, if he submits because it's outside of the 100-foot, we're just talking about local bylaw, a wetland bylaw letter permit application.
Okay.
Just a simplified process. Actually, when you go downstairs, if you know where the conservation department is,
Right,
you have
yes.
some folders right there.
Yeah.
You can grab
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
It's a simplified process. Oh, is it closed? It might be.
Yeah, it's closed too far to get that, I think.
Okay, I'll be around another day.
Contact me.
Yeah.
and We'll help you with that.
Do you have a paver yet, Mr. White? On who you're not going to use? So if we can work something out, it doesn't impact him, but he could talk to his paver, and when they go in, they could do it.
Okay, that'd be great, just to,
But as they say, I'm not promising,
Yeah,
but
no.
that would seem to me to make,
you know, keep the
sense.
flow, just to keep the flow down that driveway, 'cause
Right.
it looks like it would
Yeah.
increase a little bit,
yeah. It
and
looked,
that's a
you know,
concern.
In front of Mr. White's house, it looked pretty good. Everything looked good, but then it hits that.
Yeah, they're
Open
both
goes
pretty much
down.
on the same level,
Yeah,
and I sit about 2 feet below them,
yeah.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
yeah. But that's my only concern, is
Okay, well.
whether or not we can deal
we'll
with
t-
the flow.
We'll take a look at
Yeah.
it on the next site visit and see what we can see.
Okay, great.
Right.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, no further discussion? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
The only question I have is Becky, you know, for the uneducated member in the room, it seems that crushed stone or that gravel is somewhat pervious
Yes.
and the asphalt is impervious. Is it truly the same?
I would say it's not the same. I think, what are you saying with the coefficiency ratio?
That
Right.
crushed stone dust, because that's not quite crushed stone. If it was 3/4 inch, half inch, if it was just that, then you have more infiltration. That stone dust is a 96 CN, excuse me, news broadcast, a coefficient of infiltration, and right next to it, 98 is asphalt. So there.
Yeah.
when
So I
water
think
hits-
that there's not a
That-
big difference
It's not
in
a major
maybe
difference.
runoff.
If I could go,
Yeah.
like a forest would be 78. I mean, you're talking quite a bit of difference with forest litter and the infiltration because of the litter.
Okay.
This is so close to almost, when it rains out, as soon as that gets saturated, then it becomes 98, that stone dust. So it is not a.
You're right.
Do you agree with that, Becky, in general?
There's not a big difference in its infiltration capacity, as he's saying. However, one's pervious, one's impervious. So there's,
Inhibits flow better than the other does also.
I think whatever settles in
But it's
that low
not- it's,
spot will
you know.
eventually infiltrate. It has the ability to infiltrate. It's not going to not infiltrate like pavement. I think that's where the difference is, so. But I think doesn't matter for this project
project.
anyways, but right, I know what you're trying to do. You're
I'm
trying to
just
show
curious.
that there's a difference between pavement and stone dust.
State of Rhode Island says it's impervious.
The stone dust.
Stone dust packed as impervious.
We just want to give to the new member, just in case you want to read it. This is the engineers, comes out of HydroCAD. This is the calculations required by stormwater for anything we do in Mass. This was already done and analyzed both on what it is rated at the state level, 96, and what the asphalt is, 98. So you have this in your package, or Becky has it. It's part of my exhibit. It's Exhibit 9A in the RDA.
Okay.
So it
Thank you.
might be interested in reviewing it and looking at it, because it gives you a little bit more background on it.
Sure.
All right.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Nothing else.
again, I'm gonna ask the question again, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I made the motion and I'm looking for
A second?
second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Do I
So-
have a motion to approve the project? Becky, what?
Right, I'm just gonna tell you, this is a determination of applicability, so it would be a positive number 5. The project is subject to the local bylaw. We are positive 2B, we're not confirming any wetland delineation associated with this project. It's a negative number 3. The work described in the request is within the buffer zone, but as defined in the regulations, but will not alter the area, therefore it doesn't require a notice of intent, subject to the following conditions. And that's when we'll issue our letter with our pre-construction and construction conditions that we discussed before.
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you again for your time very
I
much.
just ask that you-
Appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Sign the
Thank you.
determination.
Yeah.
And the inside inspection.
So we'll issue our determination tomorrow. We'll send it certified mail to you. It's a 10-day appeal period. Obviously, you're not starting work anyways, but that'll be your official copy.
And the only thing is, when we choose a contractor, we have another site meeting with the contractor and the commission?
Just me.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
the
And,
commission.
and
Just the agent.
usually ask at least maybe
Yeah.
a week, couple day notice to make sure I can meet you out there and stuff like that, and be fairly quick though, quick inspection, so.
In the determination, she'll outline it.
Beck?
Thank you again.
Nice to see you, Glenn.
Thank you, and
Bye.
we'll talk on Farquhar. I have it in my hand, but we'll talk on that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
We'll all be-
Yep.
Thank you.
What are you here for? What?
9 Holland Road. This
9
is Bill.
Holland
We
Road?
met him out
Okay,
there.
yep, right.
Yeah, remember?
Come on up, we'll do 9 Holland Road. Sorry, I didn't recognize you.
Okay, I'm William Cody, and I'm representing Dick Devon Ventura. I was told to bring a letter to that. I submitted one already to Becky.
Thank you. Yep.
And I brought a map of what's been done already, but I only met 3 of you, so I only brought 3 copies. But I'll give one to the gentleman I haven't met before.
It's all right, they can share it. And in the papers that I left for you, you do have the other letter, which outlines what their plan is to do, so just so you know that's there. All right, so Bill, I'm just gonna not everyone knows who you are necessarily, so at our last meeting, two of you weren't here at our last meeting, so you know that we issued an enforcement order for 9 Holland Road for the unpermitted activities. We issued it to the contractor, which we were made aware of, that was hired to have his crew, I guess, you weren't there at the time, do the work. So we issued it to the property owner, which is Richard D. Bonaventura, and to Bill, who was hired by Mr. D. Bonaventura to do the work. Bill was not on site to do the work as he had had surgery and wasn't there. The gentleman who came to our last meeting, Richard Conley,
Santa Claus.
Santa, I guess, right? He's away right now, otherwise he'd be here. He's doing his Santa tour, but he was kind of overseeing work down on the property. Wasn't named in the enforcement order as we didn't know of his involvement at that time. He was kind of overseeing some of the work and clearing and et cetera. So Bill's here to talk about what they're doing out there, what their plan is. You know, he's been in direct communication with Mr. D. Bonaventura, who's in Florida right now. I think the last time when our previous enforcement issues were issued with him, he wasn't in town at the time either. You gentlemen worked with the contractor. As you know, I kind of indicated there were some past enforcement issues. And so I've met with Bill. I've been on site. We've had conversation. We went out on our last site visit, went out there and met Bill. We asked in our enforcement order to put together kind of the extent of work that's been done out there, and really understand what's the plan out there right now. Is it just cleanup? What other activities are happening? And also, you know, as I explained, and I explained to the property owner as well, you know, there's an old permit out there, which was a result of an enforcement order, that appears some things have been taken care of, major drainage issues, but some things were still outstanding. So how can we work to address those things? We've got some erosion on the site, some of it coming off of Route 20. That's been a problem. That is still a problem. So Bill's put some bales out there. They're looking at doing some work there. I asked Bill to put together a list and work with the property owner, you know, to let you know what's going out there and what their plan is moving forward, and the commission can give an idea of what we might be looking for restoration and what we need to make that evaluation. So just wanted to give the other members who haven't been here, didn't make the site visit, that kind of update.
Just one thing I'd like to correct,
Sorry.
is Rich O'Connor was taking care of everything. My guy was just up there working for Rich.
Okay.
Rich was giving him direction. Since Rich left, Mr. Devon asked me to take over the site.
Okay.
So I've only, since Rich O'Connor has left, have taken things over.
Okay.
Like I had a meeting yesterday with the fire department and the building inspector and
Inspector.
stuff on it.
Okay.
So I have a list of things that we had discussed that I need to get approval of.
Are these all done?
No, these are things that we had talked about that I would like to do.
This is,
The
this list.
map you have is of what has been done. The red is existing stuff, the little dark marks are the stuff we cut and what size they were and stuff. And the fire department did make a comment that they had made them cut things in the past, and that they were very happy that I had trimmed all that for them, so they had access to get down there.
I mean, like on the backside, behind the building?
Yeah.
So,
Because they had an order, they said, in the past, and it did get taken care of, but they said they hadn't been down there in a while, and that it hadn't, obviously needed to be done again. Because I had mentioned trimming about some other things that were, some of the bushes we had trimmed,
Yeah.
the stuff still hanging over the driveway, that it wouldn't, their trucks would get, hit by that, so they had mentioned that to me also.
All right, let's see if we can make this fairly painless here. Okay, finish chipping down wood. Where is that?
It's a little bit all over the place,
Okay.
so the piles that are cut down or were cut down, there was piles that were left. Let me pull up the old plan here since that's on a hard copy. We have a lot of places that things get saved, so let me just navigate my way there.
It's a lot of fun.
This is 959. And- Okay, so this is the plan which was part of the original orders of conditions when they filed after the enforcement order in 2016. This was early 2017.
May I interrupt for a minute?
Yeah.
May I sit down, because I've had surgery?
Yeah,
and
right over here. You can have a seat over there.
Yeah, there's a little pointer over there.
Yeah.
I was just gonna suggest you do that.
Okay, so on this plan, remove stockpiled brush and trees over here. This is where the old building was. There was some piling of stuff here. Those piles are still out on the property.
That one you're on right now is.
Yeah, okay, this one. And then obviously, as we get over here, there was some stuff that was cut that's down. And then when we,
Are we talking about now, or are we talking about 2006?
well, I'm just showing you for reference. So he's saying finish chipping down to wood. This is a pile that's here now.
You're
That
gonna
was
chip
from
that pile,
before.
or you're gonna burn it?
Chip it.
Chip it?
And there's like little piles all along the building and pieces all over the place. I mean, I don't know if you guys had, the place was a mess before. And
Yeah.
Rich had my guy cut everything down and clean it up so the property could be seen, because kids were getting into it and busting everything.
Does anybody have a problem with him chipping the down wood?
One concern I have is that, are you talking about all the trees that were cut along Route 20 that was off the property? Are you
Yeah.
talking about chipping all of that?
That too.
So I
You can't approve that
think,
without the
right, you
land.
still need to talk about all of that because I think that's part, the cutting of the trees there was a lot. And then the ones along the riverbank, I think that's where the commission's concern is. So I think the historic chipping of stuff, I think that there's really no concern of that. I think you need to index
On their
and.
property.
On their property,
I'm not
right.
giving approval for him to do anything on
Oh,
anybody else's property.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, there was not any tree clearing that was approved along the riverfront. So that,
Yeah.
and to me, I understand what you're saying about overgrown and needing to get fire trucks down there, but this is clearly, Vista pruning, to have all of that cut down. So that, all the stuff that was cut down here, that's already been chipped?
No, there's still a bunch of stuff up against the building. I don't know if there's just tangled vines and some tree stuff, and there's a decent amount of stuff left down all over the property here and there on the property that needs to be cleaned up, run through the chipper.
Does it include the trees that Steve was just indicating?
Some of them have already been chipped and some are still need to be chipped. All
So,
little branches, like 2 or 3 inches.
all right, there's some, you can't really see much in this photo, but there are some things along here.
Yeah, you can see in that picture something that's been cut. It's, like 2 or 3 inches.
Right, there's some different varied sizes throughout here. I don't know if I have any good photos of that.
Yeah, I can, now that you showed that picture, I can visualize what's along there.
This was the dead tree that we cut, and it fell on the good tree, which we took down. And there is another pine over there. I looked at the property line, I got the property line marked out, and there is one of the dead trees left on the property. The property line goes the back, how do I upright this?
This is, right, I don't know if you can see
Yeah, the next
it.
one back.
Yep, that's the property line right there.
divides that. No, it goes right through the middle of it.
Okay,
Heading, like it goes through, it's in front of the left side and goes over the back of the right side towards the river. And you can see the pine right in the back that is dead on the property. That's leaning over Route 20 and the fence, so I would like also to take that down. Because it is a danger. Should it fall, and you guys seen how bad a shape a good wind storm could take that down, right onto Route 20 and, hit the fence and maybe a car or something. So that's one of the, I think that's the only tree up there left that we'd like to take down.
yeah, and the commission, obviously, people come in, they have dead trees, it's a simplified process, they get approval, they can take them down. The commission doesn't have concerns usually with dead trees, but there's a a process for that, that it's not that they wouldn't let you take that down, you know? Right now, we're in a situation trying to figure out the extent of impact that occurred beyond what was permitted. I think, go back to going item by item here.
Well, I was-
If you
yeah.
wanna, right, define finish chipping down to wood and limit that to an area, if you wanna say,
Well, if it's
yes,
down-
you
yeah.
can on property or not, but.
I don't know that I want them working on that bank, the river bank, any more than they already have.
The
at this
riverbank
point.
would not be touched. Everything has been picked up and pushed off against the building. So the riverbank would not be touched.
So is
any
that
further.
something that happened after we were
No,
on?
it was when you guys had already been there.
'Cause I didn't remember seeing the brush along the,
It was just small piles and stuff that he had
Yeah.
not chipped.
Becky, could you go back a couple pictures? What, yeah, so what
Yeah,
I
there might be-
remember is there's still some debris here from when the trees were cut down. There's some pine boughs and,
Right, you can see that.
There
kind
was
of-
some more dead stuff there that we hadn't touched, you know,
Yeah.
that we hadn't cut.
I'm just not terribly comfortable about, I don't know how you guys feel, but
Well, it's not like they're putting a piece of equipment in there.
What?
It's not like they're putting a piece of equipment in there to pull those, sounds like, is this a new picture, or has that already been pulled back?
No, that's new.
Okay, so there's some limbs there.
There was a great deal of small cutting along, you know, like
yeah, I mean, you
2
can see
inch,
it in
3
this.
inch,
Right.
all the way along the river,
Right.
you know, to widen the road going in.
Well, it was also overhanging the road, blocking the road.
Yeah.
Most of it. That's why we trimmed it. That's like why we trimmed some of the trees that were right next to the road, which the environment
Yeah,
department
but
mentioned to me.
But it's why you're here and it's why we're concerned.
Right,
Because
I'm just-
we, you know, you did that with basically no approval.
Right.
It was executed without any approval, and so what we're trying to, you know, as far as finish chipping downed wood, I would have no problem as long as it was all downed wood and as long as it was
Yeah, nothing
all
else.
on your property.
Is it all right? I'm just gonna knock this so it stops beeping.
Okay. Is it? And as far as the river's edge, we don't want any more activity on the river's
No,
edge.
nothing will be touched over there.
From the length of it, from one end to the other, on the river's edge, we don't want that banking.
The only thing that, I talked to you before, there is that big tree is laying down. I'd just like to get that out of there, down the far end of Hall Road.
Is it on your property?
Yes. But it's right on the riverbank just before it goes down the hill.
Remember that, Steve? I don't remember.
You remember that big one that was sitting there on the left?
I don't
By the
remember.
cement,
No, down.
No,
down
on the other end of the
section.
property, right? The other
There's
end.
pipes and stuff in the woods that we had talked about.
down
Yes,
here,
Down there.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing a tree down by the river.
Not by
I
the
don't
river,
know
it was up on the
exactly.
top of the bank.
Oh,
right
up here by the
No,
road,
the
on
other side.
Holland
No,
Road.
on the other side.
You've got a pointer right there if you.
Yeah, so this is Holland Road right here.
How do I,
This is the gravel drive coming in.
Press- pick it up
Holland
and
Road.
press-
Yeah, you just need to pick it up and,
oh, okay.
So Holland Road's here, here's the little gravel drive
Right.
coming in.
Basically, it looks like right there. It's just a tree that's been cut, or, no, actually, I think it fell down, and it's just laying there, and needs to be, cleaned up. I mean, it'd be no real big deal if I just leave it there anyways, but I just wanted to, if I was up there cleaning things up.
I don't remember it.
I don't remember it exactly
Yeah.
either, so.
Okay, well,
I don't-
I'll just leave it there, it's
I
no
would
big
just-
deal.
yeah.
Okay, one dead pine. The dead pine is on your property near the gate on Route 20?
Yes.
Anybody have any problem with that? It's better than a doornail.
Nope.
And I think it might even be out of, I don't know how far it is from the river, but it's a ways.
it's within jurisdiction.
Yeah, it's-
Especially with the bank,
Yeah.
the slope.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm all right with that.
So I have no problem with that. Now, when you say chip the piles from 2017. Are those
That
the
would
same
be-
piles that were finished chipping the downed wood?
That's
That would be
this-
that pile right there, and there's some other stuff right in here.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know why you haven't done that. We've, you know,
Well, we told him,
been approved for a long time. Switch the name of the 2017 permit to read Richard Di Bonaventura. Didn't he own it then?
Yes.
he did, however, the permit was in the past contractor's name who's
Okay.
not involved whatsoever, which
Right.
is,
I don't even know,
Paquette.
Paquette or something like
Yeah.
that.
and,
He was the one that made a
Yeah.
mess of that site, dumping stuff down there, and we took 10 dumpster loads, well, they took 10 dumpster loads before I came involved of stuff that he had dumped in the building.
Clean up the banking on the far side near, lot near Holland Road.
Could we back that up again?
Yeah.
Becky, could you scroll over to where we were at the other end of the property?
That's where I had talked to you guys about it before. There's all kinds of dead stuff down, right there along the road, just to clean it up and make it look better.
Well, I would think that if there's any trees that need to be cut,
Nothing to cut, just stuff that needs to be picked, all dead stuff that's laying down on the ground.
Okay.
That hasn't been cut.
anybody have any problem with that?
Oh, and there's a lot of debris down there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
that He's offering to pick up.
it's all from cutting, Steve.
No,
No, there's a
Pipe-
yeah,
tires
PVC
and
pipe
piping.
and tires and.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
tires.
Any debris you want to take out of there, you can.
Okay, yeah, there's a bunch of pipes
Yeah.
and some tires over here and stuff.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, and you're gonna, in the far end of the lot, near the Holland Road, you're gonna clear the tall weeds.
Right in
Brush
in
only?
this section here.
Yeah.
No brush, just the tall weeds. Matter of fact, the tall weeds that are next to the pile of pipes and stuff. And
Now, what's the man's name that has the commercial slash residential project?
Rich Connolly.
And he has,
no, sorry, you're thinking of, Drew Mortgage, I can't think of his first name. He used to call weekly. The gentleman who the plan that was informally presented to you for the redevelopment of the site, is that what you're referring to, that we looked at?
it was approved as a plan.
It was just a concept, didn't get a permit
Oh, we
or
didn't get a
anything.
permit?
No,
No?
no,
Oh, oh.
no, that's, I can't think of his name right now. It's the person who's been interested in buying the property who hasn't committed to Mr. Di Bonaventura.
That fell through as of last weekend. He talked with the building inspector, and what the building inspector wanted, he backed out. Conversation has started with somebody's from a brewery that the building inspector got Mr. Di Bonaventura and talked with, and I'm supposed to show him, and he's looked at the property before.
So that's no longer a project.
Right.
No, the site gets very confusing. So you're speaking of another potential purchaser.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
the person who gave us the
Right,
concept
that's- yeah,
plan.
right.
He's still out there, it's
So we're
unknown.
gonna get a brewery in there?
Well, who knows?
Another brewery where I can't get a sandwich?
The people I talked with, the town, said they were, they said they were gonna help them with a bunch of grants and stuff. The building inspector, Mr. Nelson,
Nelson Burlingame, yeah.
Yeah, Nelson Burlingame, he's the one that got us in contact, and I guess the people at the brewery had lost their lease where it is, and they want to move it over there.
Right.
And I talked to Mr. Bonaventura, and he had looked at the property in the past, but didn't want to do it. But I guess now because of the lease and stuff, he's talked with Nelson, and they've all pretty much come to an agreement. He's supposed to walk through it this week with me, or weekend.
Good.
And it sounded like it was almost a done deal, but,
Right, someone did call the town, and spoke to a couple different departments, there was a different entity potentially interested. However, they thought they could just move into the building as is, but there's a lot of issues
That's
with
the
the
one that
building.
backed out.
Exactly, it was like an antique thing, not the commercial condo retail redevelopment, this was someone else, and they were kind of under the impression that they could just kind of move into the building as is, which isn't the case, and I
right,
think
that's
that's
why I
where.
had the meeting yesterday with the
yeah.
fire department
Yeah.
and the building inspector and the state inspector.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry that I asked the question. I was asking it because the plan that we saw did not include any clearing, any further clearing down at
Nothing
one
about
end.
that.
So I just was, if that was still up in the air, I would
But
And if
nothing.
it's gone, it's
there's
gone.
nothing more that would be cut. It would be just, it's, like weeds that are, 3, 4 feet high that, the snow's just gonna knock down
Right.
anyways.
Why are they taking those weeds down?
Just to clear things out, so for one, I can get out all the debris and just to clear it out.
I mean, what you call weeds is habitat, vegetation, unless you have.
These gentlemen that were here, seeing what I'm speaking of.
Yeah, I think it's an area that someone was probably previously mowing. It's just
It
kind
was-
of
it was,
herbaceous. Actually, there's probably some,
Originally, the part of the parking lot,
Oh.
where they used to, keep the steel and stuff, but because it hasn't been used, it's just
All right.
stuff growing up.
Okay. Just
So we've
But there
been
would
through
be
it,
no
the only thing,
cutting
the
of
hay
any wood
bales,
kind
where are the
of-
hay bales gonna go?
he put some on site that we saw when we were out there.
But Rebecca asked me to put a few more right over in here.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some water coming off Route 20 here. I
From the
think Route
state.
20 is we know the catch basins were in this before, they cleaned them out, they might be clogged again. I need to go take a look at it.
Well, I was
because-
watching from the last rains we've had, and I did not see anything more coming off.
Oh, coming down? Oh,
But I did
good,
just leave the hay bales that I put
Yeah.
over here there.
yeah.
So in looking at this, there's one dead tree coming down, brush cleared up.
Really hauled out,
Yeah.
Being
tires
hauled
and
out.
pipes.
Have no problem with it.
So how do we handle this with the fact that we have a cease and desist? Do we have to lift that first, or do we just say that this is allowed?
You can lift it to allow for these
Lift it
things
to allow
to.
for this.
Okay.
I can generate a letter. However, there's still some old issues and current issues that I think you still need to think about and work with the property owner to have resolved. I'm gonna recommend too that, I can come out and meet you and we can look at the tall weeds and make sure there's an understanding that what you're clearing is what, I know what they'd be looking
And can we-
for, so there's no
right.
confusion on
I'd like
that.
to put a time limit on this, because.
That's a good idea.
Now we're talking about what was done from 2017, and it gets done now. How soon can you have this done?
Depending on snow, when snow happens. But we're gonna be up there, full-time, until it gets done, until the snow hits. We've secured the building finally, other than that part that's along the driveway in the back.
But we're not talking about that, we're talking about this.
But that is my first, secure the building. The fire department was very concerned of what happened in Worcester, what happened here. So they wanted the building secure so nobody can get in there. And there'll be no question about it. So they want that done first. So, I
You're
got,
not gonna start this now?
well, like I said, we just about got it secured. We should, in the next 2 days, we should have it secured. So as soon as we get that, we'll start on taking care of what's on this list.
So you think you can have it done by January 1st?
Unless it snows in the next couple of weeks, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. I'm not trying to limit you on doing it, I'm trying to just.
So what happens doesn't happen again.
Next summer when, everything's changed. I mean, how long has Mr. Di Bonaventura owned this land now?
I believe this was purchased by somebody who had the ins with CVS, and Mr. Bonaventura financed it for him. But then when CVS went where it was, the guy walked away from the property, so Di Bonaventura just got it in a foreclosure.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, but he's been involved for a long time with
I
that.
believe so.
Yeah.
So, not to interrupt, but I think that covers kind of the cleanup aspects that were outlined in the past permit too. There's still some drainage pipes out there, and I know they made some repairs to them, but there's the one drainage pipe that, I'm not sure that it's discharging, that comes out by the garage door in the
Right there.
back. Yeah, we saw that there. This plan shows that it comes from the road. I don't know that it's still discharging, because I actually went out there with Burton Engineering before in a storm, and it didn't
Yeah.
appear at that time. Burton was working for the person who's potentially buying this, and they were trying to figure what was outstanding at the time. I think that still needs to get resolved, and we might need an engineer or someone. That was one of your major concerns when I went through the past permit. I think that pipe in the rutting kind of erosion issues is something that.
Right, because
would-
we didn't look inside there, but there's like 3 or 4 inches of dirt in here that had washed down from what the state had done.
Mm-hmm.
And, like all the erosion in here, it all was going down in here and washing things in there. So they had put the pipe, you seen the hole right there, and just put it over to there.
Yeah.
So
But,
it's only about 8 feet of pipe.
yeah, but not sure that
Open on
that's,
both ends.
but are you sure that's the pipe? Because
Yeah,
this pipe-
I stuck a
You
thing
did,
to
and
make
it
sure.
went through?
of
Okay,
tape
so
measure
that's
through.
not potentially an issue anymore. I mean, it was, you can see.
We had big issues on the other side, right,
No, I know on that side.
and that's been solved.
I mean, I think
Well, I'm
that,
gonna move this along here, guys. What do you,
I think we checked everything off.
checked everything off? I'd like to put a date on it. Again, you tell me. Can you have this done in a year?
Yeah, no problem with that.
Okay, so we give them a year to do this. I'm not, I'm only saying it because in 2 years, when this comes before us again, and we look it up, we'll see that they shouldn't have been working on it.
so, are you saying you're giving him a year to accomplish this list?
Yeah.
Well, I think he's gonna do all this in the next couple weeks, it sounds like, right?
I plan on it unless it snows.
I think there's,
Believe me, it's no different than previous
No,
times that
I-
people have come before us.
How
In
about if
2000
how about 6 months?
All right,
I mean,
6
just-
months, I'm trying to get a
Spring.
number.
Because that would put us in the spring, and so if
Right.
it snows, get it done first thing in the spring.
and then I think we
All
can
right, 6 months.
look
just-
at if there's erosion issue still, that was one of your other concerns, but,
Well, yeah, there's still some areas of the cease and desist order that we need to
Well, we need
make sure they don't happen. So we're gonna lift.
to, have you talked to Kevin McConnell about this?
only that previous conversation, I think,
He is now in California.
so no, all right, you guys were, someone on your side was gonna contact him about that tree work that was done on his property. I informed him of it. I said that we were having you guys come in, we were gonna discuss it, and kind of left it at that point. And then when we had the meeting, Conley said he was gonna reach out to him and discuss that,
Yeah.
what they did on his property.
I have
so.
nothing in writing or anything else, but
Okay.
he said everything was all set with him, and they had talked about it, but I have nothing, I was,
Right, I don't
We're
have
not
that
allowed,
either.
we're not giving you permission to go on their property
That's-
at all, so.
so when he.
Because we'll find
we'll
him in
get rid-
violation if you cut stuff on his property.
So if we get permission, when he gets permission from him, get it in writing and bring it back before you.
Right,
Yep, understood.
okay.
And to Steve's point, we've got to get a restoration plan for restoring what was done. So you understand, this is your priority for what you want to do, but we also have work that needs to be, so we need to talk about when that's going to happen. Like, I'd like to have, I'd like to have a plan come before us soon.
Okay,
It was never brought to my attention what you want me to do, so I don't know what.
Right, well, that's because we need to talk about it in this setting, so.
Right.
The trees have to be replaced, in my opinion. That's the main thing.
Now what? Oh, yeah, you said you cut them to clear the road.
Right, and you can see most of the stumps were leaning towards the road. There was a few you couldn't tell that the stumps, but a lot of the stumps you could see were leaning towards the road. And like I said, the fire department said they had issued a thing before it had been done, and nothing has been said about it for a while, he said, but it was appreciated that we did do it, in case they had to come back from there or in from 20.
I mean, right, I think that, right, you can see down in this area, a lot of it.
I mean, there is not
Was
very
going
much room
in.
there. There's
I-
enough room to get a truck by, and that's about it.
I don't know that all the clearing was just
Believe me.
for the roadway,
Yeah.
but,
There was, I will say, there was some up here that was right there,
Yeah.
that, I can understand those. But anything down over here, those were all necessities. That, and I don't know if I should talk to you guys, like I said, they had mentioned, if you could move that farther back, we had trimmed a couple and they're on that, but they said something to me about trimming them higher so the trucks wouldn't hit them. I mean, there's nothing big trees, I mean, they're like 6 inches, but there's branches still overhanging where they'd hit.
Look,
A
I'm
tall
gonna
truck, but-
stop you there, okay? You're in violation for cutting trees there near the river, period.
Yep,
And we can start fining you for it.
yep.
And definition there'd have to be a boat fire down there for the town fire department not to be able to get at it, because all there is the river.
No, they were talking about the building, that and the state guy gave me and everybody
Yeah,
else an
okay, but
earful
that's-
about it. I
yeah.
guess he lives down the street,
Yeah.
but he was very,
It's not-
you know, he
it's
wants
not relevant
nothing
at
done
this-
up there until
before
the
this board.
sprinkler gets put in there and.
Right. All right. All in favor of approving the actions on this sheet?
Okay, I'm sorry to keep dragging this out.
No, no,
I just want to set some kind of parameters on what we're gonna do for the restoration. Because right now, I feel like we put a cease and desist on this, because
Right.
they have some major violation. And now he's coming before us saying, we want to do this work. And I agree with this work getting done. I don't have a problem with it, but we're not getting any restoration. This isn't,
No.
forwarding our cause here, so.
No, you're right, Steve.
I just want
No, you're
to
right.
know when, I want to set up, we said he's got 6 months to do this, but when are we going to get the restoration plan? And I understand he needs some guidance for what he
Yeah.
needs to do.
How do we give it to him? What do you?
Well, do we have an enforcement order
Correct.
for this the
Correct.
new work that he's done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with that, we asked for a restoration plan to be developed.
Okay,
So-
and when are we gonna get the restoration plan?
Well, we always set usually like a 2-week deadline with our enforcement orders. So that's already passed because we've been waiting for, we gave a deadline to have this plan to show where the cutting was done. He did give that to us before our site visit, so they met that deadline. The restoration really needed to come back to a meeting to have discussion for what your input was after you reviewed this. This also obviously doesn't include the off-site clearing too.
Okay, so Stephen, it sounds like what you're reminding us of is something that is in place, that he's supposed to give us a restoration plan.
Right.
Was supposed to have, so we need to get a date.
I've never been presented with anything that needs to be done.
Well, it's outlined, it's in the enforcement order.
Yeah, but I all was said was replacement, where, what, how much.
Right, that's what you have to look at, what was done, and then usually some type of, like an arborist or someone or a wetland consultant would help develop a plan based off of what you've done, and that would be presented to them. They can give feedback, like, all right, well, obviously this is the area where trees were cleared, obviously it's the whole river bank, but looking for
Yeah.
replacements in the area that was impacted would typically be what they would
I'm just
look
saying
for.
that I have not,
Yeah.
been approached on anything so I have no idea what they want to do or what I need to do.
Right, when someone comes before us to request this kind of work, we typically require 2-to-1 replacement. So you cut down one tree, we require you to replant 2. So that's kind of the starting point.
So you've inherited this, do I understand?
Yes.
So you are now
mess.
the man. Well,
Like I also showed you, a lot of those trees were on dirt that had gone over pavement and stuff too. So, you gotta.
Right, well, there might be an argument that some of those were ones because they didn't maintain the property, grew up in the road. You might have an argument there
definitely
that
some
those
that are
small
bad,
ones,
Father.
they might say, yeah, I agree with you, but you guys went down on the riverbank, you cut off the property,
Right, I
a lot
agree
of
with that.
trees. That's where, they'd be typically looking for something to mitigate that impact.
What does it say in the order?
a lot of those trees could
It's just
easily
a-
have been allowed to be cut down.
Give us a plan that showed what they were done.
Well, permission wasn't asked,
and
like
an
it should
idea
have
what they're
been.
looking at, and then.
Okay.
That, and we don't
develop
have any way to
restoration.
evaluate it after the
Someday,
fact,
maybe,
once the
but-
tree's dead.
Well,
Once the tree's gone, we can't look at a stump and see, what value that tree was,
Well,
so.
we've got a pretty good plan here.
Yeah, I appreciate all the effort.
And
I don't know
think
if you
that
did this, but
my point is-
I can tell you put a lot of effort into that, and we do appreciate
just-
it.
I think that if, to go to Steve's point, wherever we have a tree here, if it's dead / cut, that we put a replacement tree. It's all along the river.
What I was saying though is, how do we determine what was on the road that wasn't maintained? Like, there's a lot of them that I agree that are backfathered.
You got
There's
a
a lot
mark
of them that
here,
are
we
right
can look at
here.
them. You could mark the spots where they're gonna go in.
Yeah, that's basically the restoration plan, is where you show us a plan, now, we've got this plan,
Yeah.
you show us where you're gonna put the replacement trees.
Just put,
And-
And it's not gonna be where it was in the road. It's
Don't
gonna-
Right, yeah.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
because those, we would have no problem allowing those. There's a simple process of going out and evaluating.
That they didn't
Say,
do.
These trees can be cut and these can't be.
And, but we probably still would have required replacements of those, if
Oh,
you
yeah.
cut those trees, that, you know,
And we wouldn't have allowed them cut down on the riverbank.
right at the river like you did. So, we all in agreement then?
friend zone, so, yeah, it can be kind of.
Steve,
So-
Steve, you
But-
guys in agreement that we approve him cleaning, doing, and coming back to us with a plan for replacement trees along the river?
Right.
yep, and let's just set a date on when we're asking him to come back with that plan. I'm fine with that.
Next meeting's fine.
Okay, next meeting.
Okay, I appreciate
December
that.
3rd?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
like I've said, inherited this mess, and I'll do my best to take care of it.
Okay,
Okay, well, with questions or whatever, call back in.
Okay, we're all in concurrence,
Right.
all right?
I think so. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sorry about this,
Bill, I'll
inherited.
Hopefully
send
they'll
a
sell
letter.
it this weekend, and then we can start to deal proactively towards something.
Because I talked to Mr. Nelson there, Nelson, and
Yeah.
to the town, he talked to other people in the town, and they did all kinds of grants they can apply for this guy.
Yeah,
You know, it's a shame the way the property's gone over the years and stuff. Like I said before, I grew up over there behind the Fishkill Post Office until I was like 12, and I was always down there fishing and stuff, and it was nice when it was taken care of.
this,
It was a while ago.
this plant was offered to the town for free, and they didn't take it at a point in time.
Oh, the property, you mean?
Yeah.
The property was offered to
Yeah,
the town?
yeah.
That must have been when CPC.
Yeah, it was when it was with CPCA.
My old partner, who just died in January, was a big boss for CPC. When it got sold out, he walked away from it. I used to tell him, well,
Yeah.
yesterday with Nelson, he used to work down in Austin. And he was telling me about how this was here and this was there. It was a memory trip for him.
Bill, I'll send you a letter outlining that they've lifted their cease and desist and what we've just talked about. But right before you go clear any of the tall weeds, we'll meet out there and make sure there's a clear understanding.
Start doing this stuff next week.
Yeah, do the brushing. The further away, the better.
By the end of the week.
Yeah.
And also add in the letter too, because it's Mr. DeBonfort is the property owner. You know, he's still responsible for the past permit. I'd like to see everything met in that permit and that permit closed out, especially if he's planning on turning this over. I think that's important for the commission. We sign off on that permit, that those conditions get satisfied, especially because that permit was issued as a result of enforcement.
Is that one big pile in the back, isn't it? The one that's the circle?
Well, it was, we kind of talked about that pipe and the erosion stuff. There's a lot of conditions in the permit, so we just want to make sure everything's satisfied. Especially if there's a new property owner, they will inherit that. So they might require that he satisfies the conditions of those permits before they buy it anyways,
Yeah,
which is
okay.
advisable, so.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot for coming in.
Yeah.
thanks for all the work you did on this, too.
Yeah, like I said, I used to be down there all the time. It's,
What's next, Becky?
disappointing to see what it looks like.
Thank you, Bill.
Used to be good fishing down there.
7:30 and our meeting's almost over.
I think the clock stopped. Seems like about 9:30.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
When I mean, usually go pretty late.
Yeah.
It varies.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
so, I don't know if this is under old business or new business, but like the other property, we need to deal with that in one way, shape, or form, right? That there was clearing on, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you
I mean, I don't know how, but it needs to be dealt with.
Right. Trees need to be
That was-
replanted.
Honestly, the work that was done on that property was less offensive to me than what was done there, and probably had a far lesser impact on the resource area than what was done on the other property.
Absolutely.
Well, not only that, but we have something that, we have the failed drainage pipe that is wrecking havoc. And that actually is the biggest concern right now on that lot, because that is dumping sediment into the river. So that, and eroding, the trees are falling over because it's getting undermined.
Well, Eric, you saw it, right, when we were out there,
Yeah,
we showed
no.
you? Yeah,
So are we
Yeah.
taking enforcement
Yeah.
against him for
Let's
cutting
move
those
this
trees?
along. We got,
we did.
Yes.
so
Yeah.
are we through our letter permits here? What do we got?
We haven't done any of the letter permits
That's what I
yet.
thought. Let's go.
So 53 Bennett's Road, that one, we informed them that they would need to do an arborist report. It was a good amount of trees that weren't
Yeah.
dead. They haven't got that yet, so they're delaying that.
All right.
We'll see that on some upcoming agenda. So that one's right off of there. 151
Walker
Walker
Pond.
Pond Road. This is 2 trees, 1 dead tree. I went out there. We're about 140 feet from the lake. So we're pretty far. 1 dead, obvious. The other was a leaning birch over his house. Like I said, 140 feet. It's on a embankment leaning over. I have a photo. It's hard to tell in the photo, but where am I going?
No,
Huh, where'd I put it? Well, I saved a photo, but it's a small leaning birch on the embankment over the house, right next to the tree. He'd like to take it down.
We'll take your word for it.
Okay, there's plenty of trees. He told me he's a tree hugger. He's got a lot of trees on his property.
Okay.
He's far from the lake, no concerns.
all in favor? Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome. 13 Old Hamilton Way. I believe I emailed you the revised arborist report. You have it. I gave it
Yep.
to you tonight. Let me pull mine out.
I have some issues with this.
Just to summarize, I did speak to the arborist after the site visit. Obviously, after our site visit, they did revise it, which includes, I don't know where I put my stuff these days, which includes the restoration plans. They did say that they would replant in there.
Becky, do we have a sketch that shows where each of these trees is?
I do not have a sketch from them that shows that.
Nope.
I remember mostly from the site visit, but
Yeah.
it would have been
Yeah.
really nice to have
No, I agree.
kind of sketch of this.
I mean, I can ask them for it. I can even sketch it too, but
Yeah, we took exception to some of those trees.
Right. Do you want me to go through my comments on this?
sure. I just wanted to add, though, when I spoke to the arborist again today, of one of the ones that they requested to be removed, which is the one right on the lake side, they did say they would wait on that one to look at it in the spring and evaluate its health. So they would wait on that. The one right behind the house where the addition work's being done, that one they'd like to take down now. So that's the only change from what you see on there. They would leave that tree, look at it in the spring.
Yeah.
Do you want to add your comments, Steve?
I didn't have any problems with the trees along the side until we got to the front of the house.
Yep, that's my same comment too.
Yeah, So-
And,
It's basically trees 5, 6, 7, and 8
Yeah.
that I question.
Well, I think the question that isn't, what are we gonna plant for replacement trees?
And,
I'm sorry, I
and,
used your, Steve, I usurped your
No,
question.
no, that's fine.
and that was
These are all
left kind
20
of,
plus
Yeah.
inch diameter, these are huge trees.
Yeah.
And I didn't agree necessarily with the, statement that they were declining. I mean, I don't know.
I agreed with you at the site visit.
Right.
My comment was, I'm declining.
Yeah.
But the trees looked, they're not gonna fall over tomorrow,
so,
next year.
So are you talking, tree number 7, is that the one you said that they're now taking off the list? Is the red oak at Water's Edge?
correct. Yep.
All right, so that's good, because I wasn't happy with that.
6 is the one right in the middle of the lawn. That was the other large oak that was questionable. There was a lot of evident dead wood on it. So I actually went back because we had approved in 2017 when he bought the property. So this is the tree by the water's edge. And I'm glad they said they would leave that up for now and relook at it, because this is 2018 photo. This is last summer. This is July of last year. There were 2 next to it that were dead he took down.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you can see, obviously, looks pretty healthy at that time.
Yeah.
So that was the one that I thought was most questionable on that site.
Yep.
So I think that having that one evaluated in the spring is a good idea. I think the ones, right, that he said, this side of the houses, there's a lot of trees there. Some of those, right, could come down. We did look at them in depth. It was more just the ones in the back of the house that I would say were concerned. Looking at the arborist report, they say that they're willing to plant 5 trees within 200 feet of the resource area. I guess I'd maybe be a little bit more specific where you'd like your
Yeah, that was what I was gonna
replacement, because
say.
if you're losing stuff by the shore and you're trying to replace that shade on the lake, then maybe I'd add some
Right.
specifications on where you'd like that. However,
I
the
agree.
one by the lake might not be coming down now, so I think about that as well, too.
Well,
One of them,
one of them,
right. The
Yeah.
other one still has a canopy over there.
there's still plenty of lawn to put some.
Yeah.
I think your point is good. I'd like to see 3 or
Can you
4.
say that again? I'm just kidding.
I'd like to see 3 or 4, replacement trees.
So let's just be clear on what we're allowing here. So 1, 2, 3 is just a pruning, 4. Those are all the ones that are,
Yeah.
well, 4,
Or is a
So-
removal?
that's
We saw
next
that
to the
one.
boat ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm okay with that, but it's,
There was another tree there.
Right.
It's staying.
all right,
And there's a fork tree that's going.
yeah. So we're gonna allow them to cut down the tree that's in the middle of the yard, right next to the house?
The one tight to the house?
Well, it's not,
Not that tight, but.
yeah.
Which number are you talking about?
Well, as a,
I
yeah, they
think
had a
it's- I
pad-
think
they
it's
have a
number
deck there they're
6.
replacing, but-
No. 6 and 7?
The 7's off the.
Yeah, 7's off the list, that's the one
Yeah,
that they're gonna
Which is
leave.
good.
Yeah,
He went off on me when I said that we should leave 6 there, if you remember.
Yeah, because you said it was Vista pruning, and he he protesteth too much.
yeah, I guess I had a problem with that, too. I didn't agree that it was in severe decline.
Yeah. I mean, here we're in a situation where we say you have to have an arborist, and in the arborist report, we don't agree with, but the tree had a lot of leaves on it, and I'd say let's see what happens next spring
Yeah,
on number 6
Yeah.
and 7.
yeah.
All right,
My recommendation.
I
I'll
agree
go with that. Everything but,
So right now, you said you wanted 3 or 4 replacements. That's basically a 1-for-1 for what we're allowing so far,
right.
and you're okay with that?
Well, there's a lot
Yeah,
of
there's a
trees.
lot of
all
Yeah, there
over.
are a lot of trees,
A lot
okay.
of trees left. I mean, the big ones are
Yeah.
the ones that are standing out by themselves near the lake.
The thing is that you gotta look at this long-term. They're putting in a 1 or 1.5 inch diameter tree. All those other big trees that we see, yeah, they've got them now, but those are, in the next 20 years, he's gonna be back here asking for those to be cut down, so.
Yeah, I think
I'd rather
the
see
lot will
something
stabilize.
planted.
Yeah, I think that the lot will stabilize now that the house is in. It's
Yeah.
at full size and everything. So,
And didn't we talk about having something down on the,
well, that's what he said. I think we should have 4 replacements, and Becky will
Yeah.
work with them to.
All right. 4 replacements and maybe some shrubs, because we didn't really have any understory, right?
correct,
Okay.
berry bearing,
Yeah, 2 to 3 shrubs.
as Mr. Barnacle?
Sounds good, yeah.
So
I
you're,
know.
you're saying
Fine,
that's
fine.
for what you're approving now, you'd like to see that?
Right.
Okay, and then you wanna look at 6 and 7. 6, I
Spring.
think, did have some dead wood that maybe when they come out to do the other work, they could prune the dead wood on that one.
Sure.
I'm fine with
So there's
that.
no hazard. And then, obviously, they can't plant anything until spring anyways, we go back out in spring, you can look at these trees.
See
We can
how they
talk
look.
about the replacement locations, will be discussed at
Once we
that
see
time.
one's clear, yep.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I like that.
Eric, you with that?
Yep.
You gonna vote on that?
All in favor? Good. Come on, Becky.
I'm moving.
Hey, we just saved 6 and 7, we can go home.
Old business, Cedar Lake, they're supposed to be starting the swale work tomorrow. We did receive that revised plan, which gave us a little bit more detail on that northern swale. I know there's a lot of swales talked about, and you weren't part of this discussion before, but they're gonna start on the major swale issue, which is the one next to 126 Westwood. That's supposed to start tomorrow. I will call them to confirm that. Once they're done that, there's other work they're supposed to be doing
Did you get down and look at what they did?
after they cut the trees.
Yeah.
No, I didn't
No.
go down after they cut the trees. I haven't heard from that
Couldn't we
property.
get shot by the landowner?
Is that the one that's got the chain across it? Wait, right at the very end, there's like there's a big circle.
Yeah.
Yep, they have to use his property to get down.
I was just down there
Yeah.
today or yesterday, and there's a chain going across the driveway. Does that guy, I think his name was Matt, does he still live down there?
No, he sold it. There's a new property owner.
Let's roll here. What do we got
Yeah.
next?
So they gave Mass DOT permission. They went down, cut the trees.
Okay.
Supposedly,
Yeah.
they still have permission. I checked with Mass DOT. I was like, did you notify them that you're coming out next week? And they said yes, so hopefully it's still okay. The chain will be off. So they're gonna do that. Then they're supposed to move to the other portions, which, I said we need to meet out there and talk about those before they start work because we don't have specific details. There's sediment removal in one of the little ponds over there that needs to come out.
Right.
Even though it's on their plan and in their letter that they would do that, they're like, oh, because I'm like, make sure you get property owner permission, and any of the permits that are state, federal, that are outside of our jurisdiction, make sure you have everything in order for that.
Right.
And he said, oh, we're not doing anything on private property over there, and I'm like, well, yeah, you kind of said you were right here. But also, one concern about doing that is that if they do that sediment removal in that pond right now, everything is hibernating, turtles. It was a bunch of painted turtles over there before. So maybe that's a better spring thing, but they did commit to doing it as part of their short term. He said it was part of his long term. So I think we can discuss that, but it might not be best to get in there right now because of that.
No, the
So.
turtles are in there.
Okay.
So we'll continue to work with them and hopefully we'll get all that short-term stuff done. We have another meeting scheduled December 13th. Those who attended the last one, I believe, probably got an email before that date. If anyone else is interested, please let me know. That's that.
And Rawls and his gang are all.
Yep,
Yeah.
Good.
yep, they're all part of that, so,
He's done a nice job
yeah, he's been very helpful,
keeping
a
that.
good advocate.
All right.
We have another old business, but I just kind of want to quickly go through my little updates. So, just to let you know, we met with Mr. Gunn for 36 Goodrich at our last meeting. The next day, he asked me to come out. He got an engineer out there, Pete from McClure. We met out there. We talked about everything, gave Pete the history. I saw what he was talking about by the road. There is an issue up there. I talked to the neighbor, pulled the old permit out, and I sent him the plan. They're not maintaining that catch basin. There's a catch basin up by the road. It's discharging. Good night. I think they need some riprap. No one's maintaining it, but the issue is it's on his neighbor's property, but it's carrying everyone else's water. Same thing we see on the private roads. So we're working with both of them to address that, which should be a good improvement.
Good.
Mr. Gunn sent a draft plan. They're on our next agenda to come in and present their draft plan for what he'd like to do with the decks. So
Good.
making some progress there. Up at the Heinz property, Joe Kowalski started that invasive species management up there on Friday. They did 4 hours, got a lot done, still a lot to do. They would like to continue doing work. I would like them to continue doing it. This coming week, if the weather's good, they'd like to go back out for another 4-hour stretch. I think that'd be good to continue that, I'd like to use up those old funds
Good.
and get that
Good
work
idea,
done.
yeah.
So
Then we get Bill Cody up there to,
they can
shred-
help, yeah,
shred all
maybe,
the-
clear all the trees now.
Clear them all up. What else?
Holly just advertised for our winter tree scavenger hunt. Didn't think about it, but maybe we'll send the flyer, email you guys the flyer, you can share it, we're sharing it. The annual tree hunt's the 10th year up at the Heinz property. We switched it up a little bit this year. We're asking town departments and organizations and some businesses are decorating themed trees that relate to the department. So we're decorating a conservation tree, and we're gonna give the kids a map so they can figure out how to read a map for the trails. And then once they find a tree, based off the decorations, they'll try to match whose tree it is. So they'll learn about local government and some organizations and stuff like that. So, good thing, good family event, so help promote it. I gave you my Mass TO update. Just a quick update, 30 River Road. I did send a summary letter after that, our meeting, outlining what was discussed, the couple things that you're still looking for, and gave some dates for the assessment to be done to the resource areas. Since a date wasn't given for that, I talked to Ed about it. They did ask that they wouldn't be able to get that done for our next meeting and for us to go do a site visit because of the holidays. So asked to have that go to our mid-December meeting. So just so you know, we should expect to get an assessment of the impact to resource areas, being the stream, the private property owner with the pond, denied access on his property for them. He doesn't want someone on his property, so we won't have that looked at, so you know. Hamilton Rod and Gun Club, I went back up there today, so I had some communication with Jonathan from Ramco. That's one of the owners, not the gentleman who came here to our last meeting. Said they were gonna get started with that stuff. I asked about the clarification with that detention pond to let them know that it can be expanded. And I knew there was communication because like I told them here that we did allow for that to happen. So Jonathan did slightly expand it already. It looks like from what Rod and Gun Club saying it needs to be expanded a little bit more, which I agree. I actually went through there today and it was pretty full and we didn't get much rain. So they have permission to do that. We told them to do it. I mean, I took some pictures today. They did a lot. They cleaned that whole loam pile on top of the hill, although that needs to be seeded or something done to it so it doesn't wash right down. So I'm not sure if there's a plan for that. We did say that. They added crushed stone onto the driveway. So those are the things they said they'd do right now. There's a bunch of extra trap rock there. So I'll continue to follow up with them, but for now, until we get to spring and get everything resolved with that back basin and everything and ensure that what they implemented on the site is appropriate, we should be looking at a much better situation than last winter out there, so.
Refresh my memory about that pile that you're talking about needs to be stabilized.
So there was,
How
on
big
the,
was that? I'm just drawing a blank. Because I
No.
know that it's a little late to plant grass.
oh, right. Well, they could, and they could put an erosion control blanket on top of it. They could do that, and then in the spring it'll germinate, you know, they could protect it that way. Right, time of year, not the best for doing stuff, but the pile as was an issue, so,
I can't remember how big it is and what we're dealing with.
huh? Where is it?
Right
Going to
there.
River
Thank
Road?
you.
And Voodoo.
So,
There it is.
this is new there too, which was good. All right, so the pile was up here. And remember, we had this erosion coming down here, and the pile was actually washing down this way too, so they spread it all on top. But right, I couldn't drive up there because the gate was up. Probably would have been good to walk up there, but I had stuff I was doing. But I'll find out what the plan and what they got done up there. This is all new here, which is good, which is gonna prevent, this was all gonna wash down.
Looks better than it did.
Absolutely.
Oh,
This
that's
is getting,
nice.
That doesn't.
well, this is back up on top. So we're still gonna get some water coming down this way. I don't know if they're putting more crushed stone up here, but
Better put something.
What's the plan? Are they gonna put a rifle range up there or what?
I'm not sure what their plan is anymore. So I think that was their original intent, was to be able
Yeah.
to use that. So, I mean, there's some stuff on the slopes here, but they did commit in their letter. They sent us a letter. I sent them a long letter and asked for them to give us a commitment to monitor over the winter and make sure that the site's stable, blah, 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 all that stuff. They did commit to it.
Good.
They'll continue with their weekly.
They've been very attentive. I have the Rod and Gun Club has.
Oh, the Rod and Gun Club,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Ramco's responsible for all of this
I know.
work, but this looks much better,
Right.
Eric, we'll have to show you some pictures of what it looked like
I can only imagine.
This was a mess.
for years. For years it sat that way. But see, this,
Oh, that's better.
well,
Why is there so much water with hardly any
Yeah.
rain?
right, so it really, expanding it more, I think would benefit, especially because if it's picking up anything from the basins, and that's what they use for the parking lot as well. So, I mean, if they ran something, if this parking lot was pitched and they ran something all along the side here and they maintained it, that would be a benefit for the gun club. I think
Yeah.
they'd like to pave it, but they can do that. They just gotta, it's a process to
Right.
go through, but.
Right.
So I'm gonna follow up with them, but, I mean, I had to go up that way, so I wanted to stop by there. So, but considering what it looked like last year, I think,
Yeah.
that's that. All right, 158 Lake Road, this is our last item. So, you were provided with this report previously. So we have 22 trees that were taken down. There was some photos provided showing that some of the hemlocks in front of the house were dead. There's a bunch that were noted that were probably declining, the extent, I don't know. And since the arborist is only looking at stumps, I think it's
Yeah.
unclear.
Yeah.
There were other trees that were maples that were taken down in order to get a crane in. The arborist, they looked at them and the abnormal shape of the stump. I don't know. So, I mean, we have 22 trees. Obviously, some were dead.
What was clear was that they cleared the trees between the house and the lake in a straight line.
Yep, and on the
Regardless of,
side.
yeah, regardless of what health the trees were in, yeah.
Right. So, right, it was a significant removal. It's a violation. We asked for a replacement. The arborist made his recommendation,
Yeah.
which is 3 shrubs. They grow to 20 feet, but only in that kind of back area. Granted, this is not a wetland scientist giving a recommendation on what would be best for resource area, I guess. So I think what we have is he's done the things we've asked for in the enforcement order. So now we have his proposal for a restoration plan. I think you need to come back. One thing we asked also was to restore the site and to file an NOI. I think that we need to provide a response
Right.
for what your concerns are, what you're looking for, if you're not looking for what was presented.
So you're saying that for the 22 trees that were illegally cut down, they want to replace it with 3 shrubs?
That's what was presented.
Okay.
Okay, so, no. So what did you say you wanted to do, Becky?
Jesus. He's got big ones, trees.
I think at this
Not
point,
anymore.
the commission needs a formal response to the property owner if you're satisfied with that, or if there's something you're looking for and what you're looking for, and I think we need to add some timeframes for that, because
Okay.
we've surpassed our original ones.
I'm not satisfied with that.
No, I'm not satisfied with that.
I would
Yeah.
like them to come back to us.
Well, we have 22 trees that were taken down.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe a mix of trees
They
and
need to
shrubs,
file
but
a
I
notice
think,
of intent.
exactly, well, we said that before, and
Yeah.
we will
Sorry,
say
what did you
that,
say?
but I
Yeah.
think we need to
I
give
say they need to
specific,
file a notice of intent.
we need to give some guidance, I think, for what you're looking for. You know, you want 5 trees and 10 shrubs, you know what I mean? To say, this is what we think.
Right, and we can
It's
say
necessary.
something about the size of those trees
Well,
too.
really, we can, you know,
Do we need to consult with a wetland scientist to know what should be going in front of the house? Because I personally would like to have every tree in front of the house that was pulled out replaced with something that is going to grow vertically, that is in front of that house.
Yeah, big.
I want
Well,
something that's gonna grow
We can look
large.
at what was there, or what would grow in that area. We know that there was hemlocks there, there's woolly adelgid, is impacting some. Some people don't recommend replacing those because of that
They
issue.
need to come to us with a replacement plan.
Yeah.
It's adequate to,
And we want
What
want
you
trees.
want, though, we need to tell
Right.
them, I think, give them some more
Clearly, there's
guidance.
plenty of space to put trees behind the house too.
Yep.
I think they need some replacements there, but they definitely need replacements in front of the house. And
Okay.
I want to see,
2 for 1 anyway, right?
Yeah, 2 for 1, and we should talk about pretty big trees,
right,
Yeah.
not just
And
plant trees and shrubs.
I don't
Not
disagree
bare
that
root
maybe
to-
some of these larger shrubs would be a bad idea too.
the shrubs will go in there by themselves if you just leave them alone.
Okay.
I'm not,
I'm
I
just
didn't
saying.
mean to say that, no, but that just gives them something they can say they did
right.
when they don't really meet the,
Right,
I'd also say that the 2 for 1 has to be in, like, to quote Eric, it's gotta be in aggressive proximity to the trees cut down. So that we have 2 for 1, you know, if you get 2 trees there and down by the lake, we get 4 new trees right down by the lake.
Some of them were dead. Do you have?
I don't know that.
we don't know that.
And
There was a few photos. I'm just saying,
Well, let's tell them, let's have the argument, Becky. Let's not,
Yeah, they can bring us a plan and we
bring
can
us a plan
discuss
and
it.
show us
but
what's
3
dead, show
shrubs
us
is
why
not
they
a
did
plan.
it, and show us where it is.
well,
Becky, you're not the representative.
I know, but I guess I'm just trying to make it so we give them something clear. They did.
Well, why isn't what I told you, what I just recommended, what we just came up with? Notice of intent,
Okay.
to come back to us with a plan to mitigate the damage they did.
2 to 1.
2 for 1 planting, proximity to the trees that they took down, because that will bring them to the indication of, no, that's not, I was gonna put a garage there.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, right.
So, and so then we'll have the argument.
Yeah, that was my comment. When
That's
I
right.
saw the clearing in the back, it looked like that would be
That's right.
a nice place for a garage.
I remember you saying that.
Yes.
And, and the fact that some of those were dead, it's too late.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, we just saw
But no, I'm
22
just saying,
trees.
when people come in for dead trees, and I'm just saying that
I know.
there's
Yeah,
a couple
and
photos.
if he had come in and asked us to view the site ahead of time, then we wouldn't be doing
We would
this.
have cut those,
I know.
we said, yeah, cut those dead trees down.
I know, I'm just showing you everything that I've been given. I'm
You're
trying
the
to
only
make
one we
sure
didn't yell at.
Yeah.
Sorry.
that's what I'm here for.
No, you're not.
No, you're not. You've done a great job. You've got a lot of details on a lot of projects. But we're mad at this project.
Yeah.
I know, I just want to make sure that
And the fact that they told us that they knew that they were in violation
Yeah.
before they did it.
Right.
So that also raises that, so our enforcement order is both to the property owner
Yeah.
and the contractor who did the work.
And if they don't come in
And
for,
we asked for the same exact thing from both of them, so I'm gonna address this letter to both of them.
Now,
Not
and-
sure how they work those details out, but
it'd be a good one to start your finding on.
when do you want this by?
Yeah, they have to be, at this point, we're gonna have to set dates for each thing that they need to do. If they don't meet those dates, then we can issue tickets.
Yeah.
So- And we cannot
How-
issue anything for the
For-
fact that they went in and cut down 22 trees. There's no fine for that.
We can't at this point, I don't think, based on what.
I don't think we
the
ever
attorney
could
said.
have, much
But if
more.
we give them, if we give them a letter telling them that they're in violation, and then they don't meet timetables on it, then we
Right.
can.
Yep.
Yeah, we should
So-
seriously think about some of these really egregious things to call in the state. Because they'll just say, hey, we got this little cookbook here, it's $15,000,
Yeah.
Right, and,
whatever.
right, if it's a buffer zone impact, you know, it's a good question, but they mostly
is a
get
buffer,
involved with
That's true, they're not
direct resource area impact,
Right.
so I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, they
but
won't care
you know,
about buffer zone stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's us.
So
is
do you,
anything else, guys?
Yeah, I think they need to come back with an NOI. I'd like to see it within the next two meetings, but that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you.
so,
I think at least the next two meetings.
Two meetings?
huh? Oh, yeah. So, right, in order to file an NOI, they have to file it in advance. Do you want the NOI and the restoration plan given at once?
Yes.
Okay. And you'd like to have that on our January 7th meeting agenda?
Earliest as possible.
Now, when could they realistically
If not
plant
received
those
by-
trees? It's not gonna be till spring, right?
Well, it's gonna be till spring, so January 7th is good.
Well, they have to get a permit anyway, so
Exactly, yeah.
receive in advance for discussion at placement for a public hearing on the January 7th.
Have those dates yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we're gonna get that.
Okay, that all
Okay.
makes sense.
But we're not gonna sit here and wait until
No,
spring
I'm
until,
not saying
yeah,
that.
I know, just saying.
Right, and I can add something.
No, I'm,
You know,
I'm mad as
materials
hell.
are not
Yeah.
received, result in further enforcement action, including fining, daily fining.
Yep.
Hmm? Because it,
Holidays,
oh,
December as far as advertisement. I don't know what the deadlines will be for January.
are you okay with that? If, we have to look at the deadlines for filing for the
That's our
meeting.
second meeting in January is the,
Right, it might have to be that.
I'm always happy
No
when we have
later.
two meetings.
That's around the 17th or something.
so,
If
yeah,
it's
the
7th,
first
it'd be
meeting would be the
21st.
7th and the 21st.
21st?
No later than that?
Yeah.
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 Okay. So,
Are we all in agreement on
Yeah.
Yep.
anything else you can think of?
you're just saying 2 to 1 in proximity to trees taken down. That's the only details
Yeah.
we're gonna give it this
Yep.
sizable?
I like Ed's descriptor, aggressive proximity.
I did write down aggressive before, yeah.
And they have to be trees like red oaks or,
Comparable.
you know,
Yeah.
something that's
Comparable.
a substantial, right.
Right.
And what,
We're not gonna ask them to put in hemlocks, you know, if that, I mean, that, we've heard from Joe that that's a ridiculous thing
we
to do.
should say
but-
something about the size,
Yeah,
2 inches DBH or something like that.
I don't want Japanese maple trees going in or whatever
Yeah.
they.
Fire bushes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna hit as soon as, let's go with, find out what they wanna do for diameter. If it's Tommy that comes before us, Tommy's gonna tell you that the bigger it is, the slower it'll grow, and the little one will pass it.
Oh, that was Joe.
That was Joe.
That was Joe.
That was a famous
I know it
Joe
was
thing,
one,
yeah.
yeah. But we'll give them like a 3-inch or something
Yeah,
like that.
I mean,
That's what?
I agree. There should be a big tree. 3 inches DBH is, 15 feet high.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, nice tree.
It'd be really nice to see that.
Sure.
Am I adding that in here
No,
or
we're gonna, that'll be a part of the,
when they come back
When they
in?
come
All right, so we're not, okay.
If there's if they watch the video, they can extrapolate their
Yeah, they
plan.
say, okay, three,
Yeah.
they
I'll
want
tell them
3
what's
inches deviation.
Yeah, they'll say Barnacle wasn't there, they'll at least go to 4.
Yeah, there you go. Dave's
Mr.
probably
Chair, I
watching.
make a mo,
Sorry. Forgot my update. It's quick. It's good. Advantage Tree is contacting me when they have jobs in town. I'm letting them know if they need to file or not. Most of them have not been something that we've needed to look at.
Good.
FYI, I've already looked at 4 or 5 things.
And,
So.
and before you make your motion to adjourn, I realize I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite by saying this, but it's been sticking in my craw the entire meeting. I'd like to make a motion to at least reconsider the request for minor change to orders and conditions. And I think Becky made a good point, and I would like to put out there that we can approve the change in the footprint of the house without approving the change to the driveway, and allow them to come back with the change of the highway, of the driveway, and allow that footprint to be within what we would consider a minor change. So they can get the foundation in and get to start their work.
Are you making a motion to reopen that for consideration?
I would like to make a motion to reopen this
Well, just make
discussion
the
for
motion.
consideration. Make a motion to reopen.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Discussion?
Well, you can get
I
to
second
that.
it.
No discussion? All
Yeah,
in favor of
But-
reopening
Option.
it?
I guess.
Okay.
Why not?
Okay, so you're okay, sorry, you're okay with the foundation.
So I just,
The whole issue is that if the builder was in urgent need of getting this thing going, he'd be in the audience.
Well, he's on vacation.
I'm just saying,
I know.
you know.
I agree with
You
you.
Or a
can't-
representative.
You can't start having Becky represent the
Yeah.
building trade in Sturbridge.
Well,
She is before us, telling what's gonna happen. It's a mistake, and it is a major change. The size of the house makes it a major change. The people in the neighborhood, if they're aware, they're gonna know it's a major change. And you did it undercover. You did it covertly.
I don't know that I agree, and a shrinking of the footprint, I would think that would be a minor
They would
change.
probably like it, but you can't, I don't feel you can be that inconsistent, so that you don't have a program. So in 5 years, when you go to look for the plan, you know what you have.
That's my point. We would be asking them to come back forth. We would only be approving the minor change in the footprint of the house itself, leaving the driveway as is, and if they want to move the driveway, which is what was the concern of
Yeah,
the
well,
major
The
change.
driveway is already in a different spot on that house. It has a garage. It doesn't go around and under. You've got 2 different plans.
Well, that was my, if I may.
So you,
Yep.
yeah, so you're gonna go back and let Becky decide with the builder what the plan's gonna be?
No, he's got to come back to us.
That's what I'm saying.
But if he my problem with it is we're gonna be getting up against the winter. They're not gonna be able to get the foundation in for this house. Right. I mean, we're pushing already back
Yeah.
2 weeks at a minimum, right?
Well, 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, they're gonna still be able to dig. And they don't and if they wanna dig as I say, he's on vacation.
well, it's crew, his company is.
What?
His company is there.
He should have sent a representative
sent a
or
rep.
something.
Send an engineer.
Not, so that
Well-
you're not representing them.
Yeah.
So that there is somebody who's,
Right, and I said that I thought that it would be fine if I did. I
Yeah.
mean, so he could have, I didn't think that it was a big deal if he wasn't here. I could adequately describe the changes that were requested.
And it's not summarily impacting the wetland in any significant way over and above what's already been approved. I understand the challenge of the driveway. I get that. I don't agree with it. I understand it. I don't agree with it, but I think that with what we are challenged to do, which is to protect the wetland, we have protected the wetland. If they have a problem with the building permits and all that stuff, there's other departments to do this, but we're charged with protecting the wetland, and I think that the smaller footprint in removing the driveway from the resource area, though aesthetically may be different and considered a major change, is not going to be, is an improvement to the impact on the resource area, which is what we're supposed to be doing. So if at the end of the day, they went with the original plan, we're actually, not helping the wetland as much as if we just approve this minor change.
But we're pretty sure that they're not gonna go with the
He's already
original
bought the
plan.
land.
Right.
And I started to have this discussion, and Ed reminded me, we've already passed this, or we've already voted on it. So I wanted to get this discussion.
Yeah.
And I happen to agree with you guys, because it's, the problem here is the legality, and what I was gonna ask was, how would we legally have a document that would show something that we could approve tonight, and it just can't happen. But I wanted to have more
Yeah.
discussion, and we've had it.
Well, let's let's have a vote.
Well, we don't even need to. All there was a motion to reopen it for discussion,
Oh, okay.
and we discussed it.
All right.
Now, I would doubt anybody would second a motion to approve what you just said, because we don't have anything in front of us. And that was my question, is how could we do that? Allow the foundation, we don't have a plan that has a foundation in the driveway not moving, and without that plan, we really cannot, we can't legally
Then,
make a move.
I guess, in the interest of working with the constituency, working with the resident, working with the contractor on this, I would like to move that we approve the changed plans as a minor change, and we allow them to move forward with the project as the amended plans were put forth to us tonight.
So we would all have to say that we agreed that that was a minor change.
But I just want to add too, if the contractor decided to build a smaller house within his footprint while he was doing his work and didn't notify us when they go to do their as-built at the end and get a certificate of compliance, something like that would come up. So there's probably been situations where something like that has happened. That might be where an engineer would say, oh, the project is different because the house is a little bit smaller, but where it is didn't change on your project site or anything like that. It's a change, but it's in substantial compliance with what was permitted.
But, qualifying statements by applicants are relative. You had a guy sitting there talking about dead trees, leaning trees, sick trees, clean for the environment is not clean for.
Yeah, cutting down weeds.
What?
Yeah, I agree, you're right.
I was looking at this, and it says, nuisance trees. To them, it's a nuisance. To us, it's habitat.
Cutting down weeds, I said, what, those aren't weeds, that's habitat.
So-
You're absolutely
I
right.
understand all of that. I just, my personal belief, if you guys think differently, they're gonna have to come back, but my personal belief is that we should approve the plans.
I appreciate, Eric, that you're trying to look out for them and to, accommodate the fact that they want to get this done right now. But I don't feel comfortable with Becky presenting it and with it. I don't consider it a minor change, even though it is an improvement in our,
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
Not a minor change.
it's,
If he comes before us and presents it as it is.
and that's a judgment that each of us have to make. So for you, it is a minor change, if you poll all of us, we,
Yeah.
So,
may have a different
all right.
opinion.
So, this guy's not dead in the water for doing this project. You can still build this.
Next,
And I think that's key to Eric's point, is that we're not killing this project this
Right.
year.
No. All right.
And we're cleared.
All right.
Do we need to reclose this vote then?
No, he just was asking for discussion.
Right.
Okay, so,
He wanted to reopen it for discussion, and we did.
okay. I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.